will be useful for all of you throughout your engineering, as long as you practice engineering profession. The two are fundamentally, intrinsically interrelated. Estimate and tenders, both are interrelated. Tenders are prepared on the basis of estimates, and estimate is something very fundamental that we do even without without having formal training for engineering, even in our day-to-day life. When we receive our monthly salaries, we try to budget, prepare a budget for our monthly expenses. Therein again, we assess expenses, though we do not use the formal word of estimate, but then the same principle is involved. So similarly, in engineering, estimation is very fundamental aspect before we can take up any work, either departmentally or through tendering. So keeping in view of this, we have divided this entire topic into two sessions. One will be focused on estimation and another will be focused on tendering. But mind it that both are interrelated. So wherever necessary, I will give you examples from tendering, etc. So I will start sharing the presentation. Okay. So the first session is focused on estimates. So rather SOR. SOR means schedule of rates and preparation of estimates. In this topic, we will be covering what are the different types of estimates. What is an estimate? After all, can we have a single definition for an estimate? What are different types of estimates? And what are the accuracies and uncertainties involved while we prepare estimates? And how much attention we need to pay on accuracies and uncertainties. Then coming to the costing purposes, because ultimately it is estimate contains not only the estimates of quantity, but also estimates of costs. So what are the different types of costs involved? And then how do we analyze the rates? Then schedule of rates. Schedule of rates is nothing but a listing of rates by different authorities. Then we will be going to the project estimates and how do we check the project estimates. In Central Water Commission, you will be coming across project estimates also when the DPRs are submitted to the Central Water Commission for examination or scrutiny, or even departmentally. Some of the time, sometimes departmentally the DPRs are prepared, but then they need to be examined in the project appraisal organization, and therein the estimates are examined. Project estimates are examined as per guidelines published by Central Water Commission. There are some checks built in, percentage checks we apply. All these things we will be covering. So let us first see what are the estimates that you may come across when you are working either at the headquarter or in the Central Water Commission's field setup. So dams, embankments, so water resources structures is one thing for which estimates will be coming to you as part of project estimates. Then buildings or their parts, you will be if you are posted in the field, you will be making these estimates or you will be examining these estimates. Then while preparing the access roads for your sites, Kacha road or Pakka road, not of the quality of the state highways or national highways, but then providing fairly reasonable access, all weather access to your sites. Then anti-erosion works, as estimates may be required to be prepared. Installation and commissioning of telemetry systems. This is very much, these systems are being installed in the field setup of CWC for last so many years, and it is expected that this will continue to be implemented for the in the near future. Then there are installation of bank operated cableway systems. Then you procure lab equipment and materials, boats and life jackets, current meters and other hydrological measurement equipments. Then there are running and maintenance of sites. So maintenance estimates are required for sites, buildings, vehicles. There is one benchmark that is called musto type benchmark that we construct on the site. So all these things, for all these and many others, uh, you can imagine the type of engineering works involved, and you will be required to prepare estimates. So these are some of the estimates that you will be preparing. So we will look at some of first we will look into the theoretical part of the estimates, and then we will move to the practical considerations, and then how the estimates are to be examined. So let us try to define, though I had inadvertently placed the next slide. So can somebody give me some a definition of estimate? What do you understand by an estimate? I am stopping the sharing for just a while, and I invite you to share your views. How will you define an estimate, an engineering estimate? Anybody? Yes.
Any probable estimate, any probable cost of the structure before it is undertaken that will incur in the future, sir.
Very good. Anyone else? Anurag has given very good definition, but can anybody else think of something more to add to that definition? Any one of you, please come forward.
The probable cost of the structure or anything that we want to construct as per the dimensions.
Very good. So both you and Anurag both agree that yes, it is a probable cost, and it has to be done according to certain, I can say, drawings and designs. Dimensions means drawings and designs. As Anurag also said that it is for some future construction, for at some future point of time. Anyone else? If anybody can add something more to it, please come forward. Start your video and start speaking, unmuting your mic. Okay, so nobody wants to come up. So let me now share the presentation once again, and then we will see. You have given very good definition, and we will examine it. What are the different um, components of an estimate, or what are the different parts, essential parts of the definition? Now you see, you have covered one keyword, that is probable cost. You have also covered at a given point of time in future. You have also partially touched upon design and drawings, that is a given and documented scope. What was missed was at well-defined location also. So let us now formally frame the definition. So an estimate is the prediction of the probable cost. So we predict it. Whenever we use the word prediction means it will be at some point of time in the future. Then prediction of the probable cost of a project for a given and documented scope. This is very, very important. You must have well-defined scope of your work. What is to be included, and equally important, what is not included. It is very important for you to understand what is not included in the scope of your work. And all this must be very well documented. Now, to be completed at a defined location, why? Naturally, it may be at a given place. So your location must be defined, and at point of time in the future. Why defined location and point of time in the future are important? because your costs may vary from location to location, depending upon prevailing rates and also depending upon the transportation costs if something is to be brought from outside. So defined location and point of time in the future, because as you know, one thing is one very common factor is inflation. So as the time increases, the rates will go on increasing in gross terms, not in the net terms, but if you to account for the effect of inflation, the rates go on increasing. So this is very important to understand that we are making an estimate. Estimate means we are predicting the probable costs as per given documented scope. Means whatever your engineering design, drawings, specifications and other conditions which may be involved in the execution of the contract and to be completed at a defined location at a given point of time in the future. This is the definition that has been given by Association for Advancement of Cost Engineering. This is an association in the United States. So they have defined estimates in this way. Now let us move. What is the importance of estimate? So we can directly derive the importance from the definition. So we are predicting the probable costs. So essentially what we are doing, we are making a decision. Once we know the probable cost, then it becomes helpful in decision making. Decision making regarding what? Whether the project is financially feasible or not, you can evaluate based on your technical parameters, the estimated benefits and also the estimated cost. And then you can also find out how much resource you can allocate to a particular project or a particular work so that that work may continue. Say for example, you have got a project which is likely to continue for 5 years. So depending upon the estimates, estimate may also include the schedule of implementation. So in first year, how much cost you will be incurring, how much expenditure you will be incurring in the first year. That much resource will need to be allocated if that project is to be completed in time. Then risk management, because in estimate we are predicting as soon as we use the word prediction, then there are certain uncertainties involved which we account for in our estimate. So uncertainties are related with the risks, and if we assess them well before they occur, we can manage them better. Then accuracy of cost estimate. This is an important factor that you must have whether there is a single value of cost estimate or there is a range of values of the cost estimate. That depends. What is the purpose of preparing that estimate? Normally, in our dealings in Central Water Commission, we will be dealing with single point value. Yes, for example, we will say the estimated cost of the project is so and so, so and so. But there may be occasions that yes, we say yes, the particular project at 75% 75% viability will cost this much. If this is to be increased to, if the benefits are to be required to be increased, then the cost will increase this much. So there will be a range of values also depending upon the parameters or features of the projects. So when we say that yes, we must have a well-defined scope, so then these are the three very essential characteristics of cost estimate. Essential as well as necessary. A cost estimate must be comprehensive. Comprehensive means whatever components are included, whatever different small works, bigger works, whatever they are included in that works, they must be covered in your estimate. Very little should be, whatever thought you must give in detail before finalizing your estimate, so that with uncertainties are reduced to the maximum. then it must be appropriate. Appropriate means this must be cost estimate must be appropriate, means it should fulfill the purpose for which it is being prepared. For example, for budgeting, you may not need a very accurate estimate, but for but if if you are required to go for tendering, then you will need a very accurate estimate. So your cost estimate must be appropriate with the task at hand, and then it should be reasonable. So your rates must be reasonable. Your assumptions involved in preparing the cost estimate must be reasonable. These are the fundamental things that you must look into whenever you are examining a cost estimate, particularly of detailed project reports which are submitted to the Central Water Commission for examination. So uses of cost estimate, we have already touched upon these. So planning and prioritization, budgeting, then evaluating proposals for award of contract. So essentially, the cost estimates provide support for making critical decisions such as choosing among various project options, authorizing a project based on its potential for optimal returns on investment, or discontinuing a project if it's projected not to yield satisfactory returns. So in nutshell, it is strategic planning and financial management. So what does it mean? Whatever I have read out from this slide, what does it mean? That it is an aid in, it provides us a support for making critical decisions. What are those critical decisions? The first is, say, if I have 4 alternatives for executing a project, which alternative I should choose? In that sense, if I have got a good cost estimate prepared, then natural choice will be the one with the lowest cost estimate. But then there may be other aspects also. For example, a project may require to be executed in even if it doesn't have a benefit cost ratio of more than 1. The benefits may be less than the costs involved. For example, if a project is located in the drought prone area, therein the benefits may be less than what the costs are involved. So benefit cost ratio will be less than 1, but still we go for that. So we are going into that knowing fully what is the investment that we are making and what benefits we will be deriving. Then authorizing a project based on its potential for optimal returns on investment. Whenever we prepare a detailed project report, we also have a chapter on that in for economic and evaluation of the project. So therein we find out what are the returns that we will be getting in future. Say when will be the cost, when the cost will be when will the cost break even. So when the cost will be recovered fully, and after that particular time the project starts running in profit. So all these things are to be worked out in estimate. So you understand that yes, till 5 years of running of a project, I will not be incurring any profit, or say 5 years or 7 years or 8 years, but subsequent to completion of 8 years, I will derive the profits and what those profits will be. So knowing these things will help you plan your decisions or plan your resource allocation, plan the pace of execution, plan diversion of financial resources also. Some project may be giving you less returns and some project may be giving you more returns. So you may have a tendency to go for the project which is giving you more returns. But these returns are decided on the basis of preparation of estimates. Or if you estimate that this particular project is not going to yield satisfactory returns, then you may discontinue also. So that not if already some expenditure has taken place, so be it. No more financial resources will be wasted once you analyze and find out that there are no satisfactory returns. So it is a strategic planning and financial management that is aided by the cost estimates. It is the most important use of cost estimate is that it helps you in strategic planning and financial management. So we have spoken of accuracy of the estimate. You are aware of the estimates which are definitive estimates which are used for tendering purposes. And based on CPWD works manual, you decide that yes, if my rates, if the tendered rates or tendered amount is less than 10%, then that tender may be acceptable. But if it exceeds that, then it will not be acceptable for me. So we have well-defined accuracy range for those estimates. These estimates are called definitive estimates. The last one. So accuracy ranges from plus 10% to minus 5%. And this definitive estimates are used for lump sum bids or funding authorization. So before you make the definitive estimates, you must have complete engineering of the proposed work. So all the drawings must be ready with you. All the designs must be ready with you. All the specifications should be well laid out in very clear, explicit terms. Then you can prepare the definitive estimates. So rates will also be very realistic based on latest market rates, not old market rates. So these are the definitive estimates. But then you come across budget estimates also. Now on the 1st of February, the budget of India will be placed in the Lok Sabha. So this is also a kind of estimate. Its accuracy ranges from plus 25% to minus 15%. So it is used for detailed studies or for project funding authorization. This level estimate requires significant preliminary engineering details to be worked out. So there is not complete engineering is not required. Exhaustive details are not required, but you must have preliminary engineering details. Means you must have location, you must have sizes, you must have broad features of the your project work. For example, let us take an example from outside the engineering field. For example, the budget of India. Therein, they will have in say budget for the defense. So they already know how much expenditure will be required to be done on salaries and allowances and pensions. So they will have to earmark some 60 to 70% of whatever estimate they are making, a substantial amount for that. Then whatever remains, then that will go into running and maintenance of existing machines. Then procurement of whatever is required in this particular year. So how will they arrive? How much is the cost? At present, they don't know what is going to be the cost. The tenders will be called, negotiations will be held, and depending upon that, the final price will be worked out. But then the parliament will, once the parliament approves, means that funding authorization. So this much of budget or this much of fund has been allocated for defense. So this accuracy ranges from plus 25% to minus 15%. And this you will be seeing when the revised estimates for the this financial year's budget revised estimates will be placed before this budget is placed. But this budget also includes revised estimates of the previous financial year. Means the budget will be of the coming financial year and the revised estimates of the this current financial year. So there may be variations of plus 25% to minus 25%. Then even less accuracy is required for preliminary estimates. So herein, this is something accuracies are from plus 35% to minus 35%, and they are used to compare competing project options at a broader level. Say, for example, there are 4 projects to be set up in Arunachal Pradesh, 3 projects in Meghalaya. So you will have broad how much is the installed capacity, what is the irrigation, so how much cost is going to be, we are going to incur roughly on the basis of past records or history of expenditure involved in such projects, and then you find out the accuracy ranges. So both these order of the magnitude estimate, the first and the second preliminary estimates, they are very broad estimates and their accuracies vary. Accuracy for the order of the magnitude may vary from plus 50% to 30%. And for preliminary estimates, it may range from plus 35% to minus 25%. So for example, I will give you an example of order of the magnitude estimate. Say, for example, I have to install a 500 megawatt pure power hydroelectric project only, 500 megawatt. So I find out what is the cost, what has been the cost of executing power projects in that particular region in recent past, and I arrive at a figure of, say, on an average, rupees 10 crore is required for per megawatt of installed capacity. So I can make a rough estimation, that is order of the magnitude estimate, that for 500 megawatt project, rupees 5,000 crore will be required. So this is kind of order of magnitude estimate. If I further refine it, say I say that yes, there will be a dam, there will be a diversion tunnel, and then there will be a diversion structure, then there will be penstocks. Penstocks will be over the ground, and then a surface powerhouse of approximately this size. And then I find out broadly on the basis of the sizes what is going to be the estimated cost of dam, what is going to be the cost of tunneling, what is going to be the cost of installing my penstocks, and what is going to be the cost of installing powerhouse, only based on the broad sizes. So this will become a preliminary estimate. Maybe I will come across a figure of 450 crore. 4,500 crore. Earlier, I had in the order of the magnitude estimate, I had come to a cost of 5,000 crore. But when I go to preliminary estimate accuracies, I may come across a 4,500 or 4,200 or 4,800 crores of rupees, depending upon my detailing. So as you go on increasing the detailing, your accuracy goes on increasing, and how much accuracy you will be required, that will be decided based on the purpose for which you are making the estimate. If you are making an estimate for tendering purposes, it has to be very accurate, say plus minus 5%. And if you are making only for a planning purposes, then an order of the magnitude estimate or preliminary estimate will do. So these are the types of estimates for the practical working considerations in the field. One is the project estimates that come to the Central Water Commission. One is in the form of detailed project reports, and another is in the form of proposals. Then there are estimates for works in the field setup, so dams, embankments, buildings, pathways, running and maintenance estimates of different types, so vehicles, sites, cableways, etc. Now we come to the important keyword of our definition, that was the well-defined scope of the work. Our estimates are prepared according to the well-defined scope. So what are the steps in the preparation of estimates is that you must have a detailed scope of the project ready before you can attempt preparation of estimates. So first step is develop detailed scope of the project. How will you work out detailed scope of the project is comprehensive project scope that aligns with all the project objectives. The first thing is that the scope must address what are your objectives. Objectives must be fulfilled. Now there are two bases on which you will be developing the detailed scope. One is the design basis. Design basis means, as you all know, that we first all detailed technical specifications. We have all the field engineering done, surveys, etc. All the dimensions are available, levels are available to us. Then all detailed technical specifications, engineering standards are available. What are the quality requirements? Depending upon that, we prepared designs and also drawings. Based on that, we compute quantities, we compute unit rates, what will be the specialized labor skills required, and what will be the what will be required to ensure that proper quality is maintained. So this will be based on, this is called design basis of the scope, and then there is planning basis. So your estimate also includes plans of what? Plans of execution, plans of funding. So there will be different schedules. So schedules means scheduling of the work, and then means and methods to manage. So means and methods means what machineries will be used, what methods will be used, where machines will be used, where manual labors will be used. So all, and then other is the execution, whether it will be departmentally, it will be on contract basis. If it is on contract basis, whether it will be international or domestic bidding. So all these things must be included in your planning basis. Then exclusions, as I told you, that it is very important for you to know not only what is included in the scope, but it is equally important to know what is not included in your scope of the project. So exclusions. So exclusions must be known to you, and you will know exclusions when you clearly understand the scope of the project. So anyone who is tasked with preparing an estimate must have a clear idea of what he is going to do in that project. So we will be seeing a few examples of that. Cannot open the specified file. Okay, I will just give me a minute. I'm stopping the sharing, and then I will restart it. Okay, so here I am, and I am again sharing my screen. Okay, the screen has been shared. I'm starting the slide from the current, starting the presentation from current slide. Okay, now you see develop detailed scope of the project. I am giving you an example from the field setup, an estimate prepared in the field setup of Central Water Commission. This was done by a particular division and subdivision. It has been done in Hindi, but then it has been fairly detailed. You can see the name of the scheme, name of the work. What is the name of the work? अधिशासी अभियंता वैनगंगा मंडल CWC नागपुर के अंतर्गत विभिन्न कार्यस्थलों, मीन्स वी आर डिफाइनिंग द लोकेशंस, नेम्स हैव बीन गिवन फॉर व्हाट? गेज हट के लिए रख रखाव का अनुमान. अब ये कब का है? दिस इज एस्टिमेट नंबर ऑफ 2122, and then a background has been given in the form of historical description. So herein the objective of the estimate has been given. What is your objective? And uske and according to that, what are the requirements of the work? For example, this is the location. What is the size of the porta cabin? What is the type of land available? Whether there is a telemetry station available? Whether NOC will be provided by the department or NOC is readily available? This has also been mentioned, because all these things have an impact on the estimated cost. So location has been given. Now design drawing के अनुसार copy संलग्न है. So the detailed design was also enclosed. Now scope means what is the estimate, what is included and what is excluded. So it is only रख रखाव का अनुमान, means it is only for maintenance, गेज हट के लिए रख रखाव का अनुमान. Then rates, where from these rates are taken. So what is the basis of rates? So how old are the rates? It is 2021. This is given, then estimated cost, and then methods. So site-wise NIQ and NIT for civil work, and for supply of porta cabin through GEM portal, customized bid through GEM portal. So the method that you are also going to adopt has also been mentioned. Then time frame has also been given. So you compare this detailed scope on the आप इसको जो estimate की definition हमने दी उसकी कसौटी पर कसिए. Whether it is an prediction of probable cost? Yes. At a well-defined location? Yes. At a given point of time? Yes. For a well-defined and documented scope? Yes. So all these things are included in this estimate. So this is a very well made, though it is a very small estimate, but then a very well made scope has been developed for this particular project. So this is the drawing that has been prepared for this estimate, and this was also used for procurement through GEM and also tendering for civil works. Another example, so this is the checklist for seeking approval. So this checklist is with the for the this estimate. Another estimate is here, estimate for supply, installation, testing, commissioning and maintenance of real-time data acquisition network at 11 number water level and meteorological. This is the estimate for telemetry stations. So how this detailed scope has been mentioned here, this is the detailing that has been given. Detailing means what is the purpose? First thing is these telemetry stations are being installed for two purposes, that is water level forecast and also inflow forecast for the reservoirs. Also, what will be the instruments installed at those for each telemetry stations? Then what is the location of these telemetry stations? That has also been mentioned. Therein, if there is anything which is needed to be mentioned specifically, it is also mentioned. For example, you see this para, out of 11 telemetry station, one number will be installed at reservoir, namely Sanjay Sarovar project. One number will be installed at catchment of Upper Penganga project, and balance 9 number telemetry stations will be installed at catchment and mounted on bridge at site, so and so, so and so. So these are given in great details. Then configuration of the telemetry stations, location wise has also been given. What are the different technical parameters? This has been mentioned, and all other things are given. Specifications are also included here, right? So you see the financial year, what is so time frame has also been given. Total estimated cost has been given. What is the scope? Scope is inflow forecasting for one reservoir and catchment of 4 reservoir schemes. Rates are taken from here. Cost is this. Method is e-tender through CPP portal or custom bid through GEM. So these are the examples of well-defined scope. Here, these are the quantity estimations. Here, it was quantity as well as rates. So here, this one is for quantity, and then rates have also been certain schedule, and accordingly rates are worked out. Now remember one thing, it is the most important thing. The scope is the most important thing, because your cost estimate will be only as good as the scope is accurate. So if what does it mean? Scope is not only accurate, it must be comprehensive. The three characteristics that I told you, that is, it must be comprehensive, it must be appropriate, and it must be reasonable. So I will give you an example here, how not to prepare. See, this is this one page estimate. This is only one page estimate of what? For procurement of 2 number FRP boats. So you see, this is giving very sketchy details. Anybody who is going to go, who is reading this report of estimate, doesn't get an idea of what are the different details required for this particular procurement. Only one page. And then there is one very sketchy and one sketch of the boat. So this doesn't serve the purpose. This doesn't fulfill the benchmark of an estimate having a well-defined scope. So there are, when we go for procurement based on these tenders, we are likely to face problems at the stage of tendering. We will not be able to finalize the rates when we compare this with that, because our specifications are very loosely framed. So second step will be determine the purpose of the cost estimate. So as I explained to you, your accuracy and details will depend upon the purpose of the cost estimates. So these are the factors which make your cost estimate, which affect the cost estimate, which is project complexity, technological requirements. Say for example, if you are using regular machines for tunneling, or if you want a specific tunnel boring machine required, then the cost will vary. Similarly, project information, if you have got detailed project information, then you can work out your estimate with great details. Project team requirements, because manpower cost is also huge nowadays. What will be the contract requirements? What is the project duration? What is the market requirements? All these things you must know beforehand. Then the rest of the things are simple. Once you have found out, yes, what are your different items, you work out their unit rates, means cost of 1 unit of that particular item, that is the rate of that particular item, then total number of total quantity required, then multiply rate with the quantity, and you will arrive the cost of that particular item. So add up all the costs of all the items, then add your indirect costs, escalate the costs wherever appropriate, depending upon whether your rates have been old or latest, and then you work out the total work cost, and if necessary, you also apply contingency to the total project cost. So when we saw the example of the cost estimate, you saw that there is a report preceding the estimate, which gives you the detailed scope of that project. This is the very important component of the estimate. So we are dealing now with the essential components of estimate. These are a report preceding the estimate, then estimate of quantities of items, then financial estimates, and then at the last, abstract. So report preceding the estimate must be fairly detailed and should be used to clarify anticipated queries. Means there may be certain confusions arising. You must foresee those things, that the person who is deciding on the tenders, or a person who is going to execute the work, must what are the questions that are likely to come to him at that stage. You must be able to foresee them and provide the solutions in your report itself. Then estimate of quantities of items. So you must have fairly accurate measurements of those items, means your dimensions, and then detailed nomenclature. Your nomenclature is very important, and this nomenclature must remain the same in the estimate as well as in your tender document. Where these nomenclature is used in the tender documents, in the bill of quantities or schedule of quantities or schedule of rates. So then after you have worked out the quantities, you find out the rates, and then multiply rate with the quantity, and then find out the financial estimates. So what will be the required inputs? That is the unit rates. Unit rates are derived from schedule of rates published by state government, Central Water Commission, and other agencies such as NHAI, etc. Then there are market rates available for certain items. Then some of the items may be such that a single rate is not available in the market. So you need to analyze the rates of different components and arrive at a built up rate of that particular. Then rates of materials, rates of using machines, and as I told you, there are built up items which all these things may be used for working out the rates. And in the last, you give the abstract, wherein headwise summary is given. And last, in last para, we summarize that yes, estimated cost of the work is rupees so and so at price level so and so. So these are the essential components of the estimates. So what are the difficulties in project preparing estimates? So by now you must understand that yes, if your scope is not incomplete or inaccurate, then there will be errors. If you don't understand the applicable regulations which prevail at the local area, then also your estimate may go awry. Then lack of reliable cost data sources. So the market rates, once you are going for market rates or unit rates, the sources from where you are deriving your rates must be very, very reliable. So how the project estimates are prepared? So these are the generally theoretical background. Now we come to the actual working in Central Water Commission when we go for examination of the project estimates or preparation of the project estimates. Suppose you are tasked with the preparation of the detailed DPR. So one chapter, one volume will be dedicated to the cost estimate. So how are you going to prepare it? So there is CWC guidelines of 1997. That guidelines still prevails, and all the river valley projects, all the water resources projects or hydroelectric projects, their estimates are required to be prepared according to these guidelines. I will just show you a glimpse of this guideline. This is actually a photocopy. This is also available in the library of the Central Water Commission and also on the website of the Central Water Commission. This is a screenshot, or you can say this document has been downloaded from the website only. So this is the guidelines for preparation of project estimates for river valley projects, revised second edition 1997. So after this introduction and other things, you see, these are the things, different formats, procedures are given. Examination of project estimates in CWC. So what are the things that go into that? Nature of project costs, contingencies and work charge establishments. I am just showing you what are the contents of these guidelines. Then analysis of unit rates. So how you are going to carry out analysis of rates. This has also been explained here. Labor cost, what will be the included in the labor costs. Then plant cost, contractors, overheads and profit. How usually a 15% profit is anticipated, but it varies from 5 to 15%. So these are the after some fundamentals, then information to be given in the report of the estimate, that first part. So scope, method of construction, construction plant, establishment, all these things are to be mentioned here. And then different heads. So these are the different detailed heads under IWork. So our cost is required to be estimated according to these heads. These heads are of one works. I will be coming to these again, but suffice it at this stage to know that there are different accounting heads or work heads according to which the cost is break up and given in the estimate. So these are different types of heads. And then as I told you, there are abstracts also, different components. They have been, all heads have been explained here in this guideline. A, B, C, D, what say A preliminary, then what are the things which will be covered in A preliminary. So a preparation of project estimates for river valley projects, what you saw in that guideline, there is a detailed report preceding the estimate. The estimate is divided in units and several heads. Then there are abstracts. So this is about the guidelines. Now, once an estimate has been prepared according to these guidelines, then what further happens to that? Then you must know, you must be knowing also, there is an advisory committee of Department of Water Resource, our department, and that advisory committee considers these estimates. Now, this advisory committee is a chief engineer of PAO. Role of PAO here it is written. Project Appraisal Organization of Central Water Commission is PAO. So Chief Engineer who heads PAO, he is the member secretary of the advisory committee. This advisory committee is headed by the secretary of our department. So the agenda is placed for consideration of the advisory committee in a meeting. Now that agenda is in the form of TAC note. Now what is TAC? This is Technical Advisory Committee. Generally, its full name is Advisory Committee, and Advisory Committee for consideration of so and so estimate for River Valley projects, and it is a very long name, but it is Advisory Committee. So in short, for making in our day-to-day talk, we use the word TAC. So note prepared for TAC is called TAC note for the project, including estimate. So this gives summary of the estimate, this gives summary of the project, also highlights the benefits and costs and benefit cost ratio, etc. All these things are presented in the TAC notes. So once this TAC note is found okay by the advisory committee, it accepts it, and then that it recommends it for approval. Approval means it gives an investment clearance by the department. If it is a state project, it comes to, say it is a major project, it has come to CWC for examination. Depending upon the examination, CWC's PAO has prepared a TAC note. TAC note is considered by the advisory committee, that is TAC, and then TAC accepts it and recommends that yes, it may be approved. So what is meant by approved? The department gives investment clearance to that project, because this is a state sector project, a state project. So state may have its own finances, but then once the center gives the investment clearance, then it becomes easier for the state to arrange finances from other agencies also. And also it becomes eligible to receive the central aid under different schemes, say for example, Accelerated Irrigation Benefits Scheme, AIBP. So investment clearance is meant for investment clearance means that only that the central government has certified that yes, the investment is worth the money that we are investing in that particular project, and then it becomes easier for the state to raise finances for that particular project. So then there are different field directorates also in the Central Water Commission. They are called generally monitoring directorates or monitoring and appraisal directorates or appraisal directorates. So appraisal directorates and monitoring and appraisal directorates appraise these estimates, project estimates. Appraise means they examine in detail, they peruse. So there is some distribution of work between the field setup and the at the headquarter level. All major projects are appraised at the CWC headquarter, while medium projects are appraised at the field setup, that is in the appraisal directorates or monitoring and appraisal directorate. So if it is appraised in the field directorate will prepare it, and with the approval of the chief engineer will send it to the PAO, and then PAO will call the meeting of TAC. If it is a major project, it is appraised by PAO, the TAC note is prepared by PAO, and then PAO calls the meeting of advisory committee, and then other steps are taken. So this is in nutshell the procedure involved in preparation of estimate and also examination of estimate and acceptance of project estimate by the authorities and considering it for investment clearance. Now revision of project estimate is required to be done when the cost exceeds by 15% or if there is change in scope, etc. So revised estimate is required at that stage. Field estimates examples we have already seen. Now types of estimates, we saw it yesterday when we were dealing with yesterday's topic. So the estimates, we have seen the field estimates which are running and maintenance estimate, estimates for smaller works, buildings, pathways, etc. Then we saw that there are project estimates, what are the procedures involved. Now we come to another kind of estimates which are used for schemes as well as for projects. And this is the mechanism for appraisal and mechanism for approval. So for as I told you yesterday, for in case of schemes, these are the two committees, Standing Finance Committee and Extended Finance Committee. So if the cost is between rupees 100 to 500 crore, the scheme is appraised by the Standing Finance Committee. If its cost is more than 500 crore, it is appraised by the Extended Finance Committee. And if a scheme has been appraised by SFC, that is Standing Finance Committee, the competence for giving approval lies with the concerned minister. If a scheme has been appraised by an Extended Finance Committee, then if its cost is between 500 to 1000 crore, the competence of approval lies with the concerned minister and the finance minister. But if its cost is more than rupees 1000 crore, then only cabinet can grant approval to that particular scheme. Similarly, for the projects, the appraisal mechanism involves two boards, Delegated Investment Board and Public Investment Boards. So Delegated Investment Board is akin to SFC and PIB is akin to EFC. So basically you see estimates differ in the way of reporting. So we saw three broad categories of estimate. One is those estimates which we are preparing in the field. Another is one which is included with the DPR. Another one is this, which is for schemes and projects. So the way we report the estimate, that form varies, but their essence remains the same. Means estimate the quantities, find out the work, and these two things are to be according to the well-defined scope at a given point of time for a given location. So this is the essence of the estimate. And moreover, three essential characteristics you must always remember. It should be comprehensive, it should be appropriate, it should be reasonable. The only thing is that the form of reporting the estimate varies. So when we are preparing the estimate for schemes, this is called SFC memo or EFC memo. When we are preparing the projects for preparing estimates for projects, these are part of your detailed project reports, and also then estimates for tendering, and then your smaller projects. So these are the two. Now we consider what are the different costs involved in preparing the estimate. One is direct cost, another is indirect cost. As you see, we will go through them quickly because you already know. You must have studied them during your diploma or degree courses. That is, direct cost is labor, material, equipment, land acquisition, site preparation, investigations, etc. And indirect costs are those which are not directly attributable to the construction. That is, general overhead, administrative salaries, office expenses, legal fees, software, contingency, etc. Another way of looking at the cost is, another one is capital cost, then contingency cost, work charge establishment. So capital cost includes your whatever cost incurred for investigation, cost incurred for design and construction. These are all involved in capital cost. Contingencies and work charge establishment we will deal subsequently. Now, contingencies is allowance for unforeseen expenses, surprises and unforeseen difficulties, uncertainties, generally a percentage, say 3%. Work charge establishment, nowadays the work charge establishment has been declared in Central Water Commission as a dead cadre. So gradually these posts are getting abolished, so we will not consider them here. But then work charge establishment in principle is that establishment which is charged directly to a work. So whenever I take up a new work, I require certain temporary manpower for helping the junior engineers and other in their discharge of their supervision, etc. Because one junior engineer cannot say supervise continuously, say for example 500 meters or 1 kilometer of road work. So we will need three or four work assistants who may be deployed at different reaches of say 200 meters each, 5 work assistants. So these 5 work assistants will be deployed on the site purely in a temporary manner, but their costs will be involved in the form of their wages, and these are charged to the work itself. They are not charged to the salary head, but they are charged to the work under wages, and this therefore this is called work charged establishment. Means establishment whose cost is being charged to the work. So now coming to analysis of rates. How do we arrive? Because there are certain items which may involve certain inputs in the form of material, in the form of labor, in the form of deployment of certain machines, and then there will be overheads. So what are the different components? What is the material required? How much labor will be required, and what will be cost we'll have to pay? How much time machines of different types will be required to work for different times, different periods, and what will be the rates per hour for use of those machines? So these are estimated, and then overheads. So after analyzing, so when we work out all these components, component rates, and then sum up and find out one single rate, that is, this process is called analysis of rate. For example, see here. Here the rate has been worked out for 2.1 is the item number. Earthwork in surface excavation not exceeding 30 centimeter in depth, but exceeding 1.5 meter in width, as well as 10 square meter on plan, including getting out and disposal of excavated earth up to 50 meter and lift up to 1.5 meter as directed by engineer in charge, all kinds of soil. So this is the this rate has been worked out for this particular item of work. So this is how much they are here. The estimate analysis has been carried out for the cost of 100 square meter. How much labor is required? Bildar, 6.8 days will be required for Bildar, and a coolie will be required for 5.6 day. Day is the unit. 5.6 is the quantity. And what is the rate of this Beldar and Coolie? 736, 736. Where from this has been taken? 0, here code is given on the first column, 0114, 0115. So you can verify, anybody can verify, yes, 736 is the rate declared by certain authority for Beldar, and 6.8 is the required. Where from this has been taken? There are certain parameters which I will show you where they are given. So accordingly, labor cost has been worked out here, 9,126.40. Add 1% water charges. Water charges are required. GST is required to be added. Then 15% is contractor's profit and overhead, that is to be added. Then cess is required to be added as 1%. So total W, X, Y, and Z, they all have been summed up, and cost of 100 square meter has been worked out as 12,983 rupees and 55 paise. So cost of 1 square meter is how much? 129.84. So that has been rounded to 129.85. Mind it, we will not round it off at this stage to say 12,990. No, or we will not round it off to 13,000. We have rounded off here to 129.85 because it is rate. When it is multiplied by quantity, that rounding may have very substantial effect. So rounding is also important. So this is the example of analysis of rates. So where from these parameters have been taken? Here you see these are the analysis of these are the published analysis of rates books. This is CPWD. So CPWD has published all these type of rates. So you see, I will just first go to, yes, this is the content. Basic rates. What is the basic rates means? Basic rates means the material. For example, here, what are the different types of materials and machines available in the market? Higher charges of coal tar boiler, higher charges of diesel truck, higher charges of derrick monkey rope, or higher in running charges of tipper, pin vibrator, surface vibrator, then mobile crane. So these are the things and their rates are given. So these are the basic rates. Basic rates means at which we can purchase the amount directly. Then what are other rates? See, the carriage of materials, earthwork, I gave you an example. Then mortars, concrete work, reinforced cement concrete, masonry work, stone work, cladding work, etc. So depending upon different types of work and different requirement, they have defined what is the quantity of labor required. Say for example, we will see here. Extra for brickwork, AAC, block machinery, tile in superstructure above 5th floor level. For each 4 floors or part thereof by mechanical means. So we are deploying the crane. Mobile crane is given here. So details of cost of 5.3 cubic meter per 4 floors. This is our quantity. Mobile crane is required to be used only for 0.125 day. So multiply it by 8 hours and you will find out how much. And per day cost is 5,050 rupees. So here we have worked out the mobile crane per hour rate is 631. Then water charges, GST, contractors profit and overhead, cess, and so cost of this we have worked out 169.45 rupees for placing this brickwork above 5th floor by using mobile crane. So this is the type of analysis given, and how much time the crane will be used is specified in these standard data books. Another very important data book is issued by Ministry of Road Transport, and this is standard data book for analysis of rates. Here I will just show you an example. This is very important. All these data books are available on the web. You Google it and you will find out. See, for example, dismantling of guardrails. How much labor will be required for this? 0.006 days, 0.150 days. Similarly, machinery, tractor trolley will be required for how much hours? 0.006 hours. Overhead charges, contractors profit, all these things. So here they have specified the coefficients also. This handbook is very, very important. And whenever you are required, these AOR books, standard data books, must be available in your division or subdivision as part of your library. Or if it is not there, then for you can have download it from your directly, you Google it and download it, and just at your leisure you just study them and know them, that these are the places for references. So whenever you are required, it is not possible to remember all these coefficients, but then whenever you are required to make an estimate, these kind of estimate, then you can take help of these standard data books. Similarly, CWC's book is here, guidebook on use rate and higher charges and transfer value of equipment and spare parts. This is a very, very important publication issued by Central Water Commission. This was issued way back in 1988. This gives us how to work out per hour rate of the machines being used for construction work. right? I will not go into details of this, but then you must go through this. Relevant extracts from this book has also been reproduced in the guidelines for preparation of detailed project reports. That is also available on CWC's website. This guidebook is also available on CWC's website. This guidebook will also be supplied to you as supporting material of this presentation. So whenever you find time, just go through them. Don't try to memorize them, but then keep in your mind that these are the sources where this information is available to you. Whenever occasion arises, use it. You will know if you know this, then you know the original source of information. So schedule of rates, I told you first, I gave you in my previous slide, I gave you the data books, standard data books for analysis of rates or books on analysis of rates. Now in here, I am giving you the schedule of rates. So here, this is most commonly used daily schedule of rates of Central Public Works Department, that is CPWD. This is again available on website. You Google it and it will be available. All the rates are available, which you direct, if the rate is available in the schedule of rate, you need not go to carry on detailed analysis of rates. You straightforward take the detail schedule rate from the schedule of rates. If rate is available in your schedule of rates, recognized schedule of rate, and if it is not very old, then you take the rates from schedule of rates. Similarly, CWC's schedule of rate is also available, but it has now become quite old. It is schedule of rates of 2012. It is also available on CWC's website. You go to it. There are different types of rates included here. Index will give you what are the things. So this schedule of rate pertains to those activities or those procurement that is required for the field setup of the Central Water Commission. Only those items are included here. So equipment and instruments, hydrological observation, water quality, survey investigation, office furnishing, etc. Then schedule of rates for hydrological observations, labor, material, etc. All these things are given. Then in the DPR rates, we take that from schedule of rates. This is an example how we make cross-referencing of rates in a DPR. I'll just show you how this is mentioned. There is some issue. The file is not opening. I think it has hanged. I am stopping the sharing and I will restart share because the presentation has hanged. Now share. Yes. Okay. So here is the share and rates from this is not available. Okay. Okay. It is hanging at this stage. Why? Unfortunately, this is hanging. Just there is some issue with this. I am sharing it again. So let us move to the another slide, because that slide is creating some issue. So from current slide, okay. So these are the material costs. So material cost includes what? The basic cost and the carriage, handling and storage cost. So therefore, provision of wastage and incidentals is also to be included in that. Then cost of plants and machineries. So outputs of machines and plants are determined more precisely. Cost of machine is number of hours of use and hourly use rate. What is hourly use rate? I showed you a data book from CWC that is this use rates, higher charges and transfer value of equipment and spare parts. This is a 1988 publication. This is very important. On the basis of this, we work out hourly use rates for machines. What is hourly use rates? Means the rate for using that particular machine for 1 hour, because these are very expensive machines and even 1 hour cost may be very high. So, and then contractors overhead and profit, it generally ranges from 15 to 20%. Then there is labor cost. What are different things? Assessment of output of labor. So this is to be taken up as per the standard data books. And then their wages. Wages also include the welfare measures. For example, their insurance, PF, etc. Moreover, at the workplace, you also need to provide proper amenities to them. For example, accommodation, hospital, water supply, power, education, facilities for their children, etc. This is to be done for the projects normally. Now we come to the contingencies. Contingencies means this is the known unknowns. Means you anticipate certain uncertainties and make provision for them. There are items that can happen, but you aren't sure will happen, such as bad weather, labor shortage, labor turnover. So they have very low probability, but then if they occur, they can have great costs, high costs. Therefore, we need to keep certain amount as contingency in our estimate. Now we come to the classification of works and estimates based on units. So these are the different units into which a water resources project is divided. Unit work, one work includes headworks, that is dam, auxiliary dams, dikes, spillway, etc. Unit 2 is the distribution network, that is main canal, branches, distribution system, etc. Unit 3 is hydroelectric installation, so power plant, appurtenant works, etc. Then unit 4 is navigation works and unit 5 is water supply works. So our estimate gives estimated cost according to these different units also, and this comes handy whenever you allocate cost to different purposes. See what is going to be the cost of power component, what is going to be the cost of irrigation component, what is going to be the cost of water supply, etc. So that is why this cost is distributed in these units. Then classification of estimates in account heads. The direct charges are divided. Broad heads are works, establishment, tools and plants, suspense, receipts and recoveries. And indirect charges are, these are the two indirect charges. You don't need to go into them in detail. But then for your details, heads under one works. One works is divided into 25 categories. Those are subheads or detailed heads from A to Y. Z is not there. A to Y, there are 25 heads. One is preliminary, B is land. So land acquisition and compensation, rehabilitation, resettlement, all these are charged. Whatever cost is estimated, it is grouped under B, that is land. Similarly, preliminary works means say investigation. Investigation is included in preliminary works and then it is grouped under A. So similarly, there are different kinds of heads made. subheads: prescribed works, regulators and measuring device for canals, falls, cross drainage works, bridges, plantation, tanks, miscellaneous, maintenance, special TNP, communication, etc. So these are the different groups according to which your costs are subdivided. And subsequently, you give your estimate in these units only, these subheads only. Now, how will you check whether this estimate has been made properly? These are the primary checks involved. So, as a percentage, say a preliminary should be 1 to 2% of total cost of one works. If you think that if you come across an estimate where this preliminary is 10% of total works, you can right away you can find out where the problem is, and then you go into details of the preliminary and find out where the how the 10% has been worked out. If it is an error, you can point it out. Similarly, these are the percentage checks provided for assessing or scrutinizing your estimates. These are given in the same guideline that I mentioned you in the earlier one. So miscellaneous must be 4% of works. Maintenance is 1% of the cost of one works minus so and so, so and so. Losses on stocks, etc. So these are the at the last, we give the abstract of cost. One is unit-wise estimate and also classified in accounted. So I will give you an example of that. See here. This is an abstract for unit 1. Unit 1, direct charges, works, establishment, tools and plants, then suspense, receipts and recoveries, then indirect charges, right? And you can further go into works. There are different subheads of head 1 work. So another example we can see here. See here. Under 1 works, A preliminary is component is this much, B land is this much, C is this much. So these are different subheads of work, 1 work. These are different units, unit 1, unit 2, unit 3, and this is the abstract of cost for the entire project. It may come in 1 page, it may come in 2 pages, depending upon the complexity of the project. Another is depending upon the units. So unit 1 is this much cost, unit 2 is this much, unit 3 is this much, unit 4 is this much. So these are the 3 different ways of presenting the abstract of cost of an estimate. So report of the estimate we have already covered. So these are the details that report to the estimate must cover. I will not go again into that. And documents which must be accompanied with your estimate. Your estimates should be self-sufficient. Self-sufficient means that it should be such a document that anybody who is going through it need not refer to any other outside document. All the cross-referencing must be done in that document, and sources, extract of those sources must also be attached with that. So index map of the project, single line diagram and layout drawings of powerhouse and switchyard, brief specification of works, micro planning for irrigation, then schedule of prevailing basic labor wages that you have taken into account, schedule of basic cost of materials, transport rates, outputs of men and machine, hourly use rate of equipment, then unit rates of various works, analysis of rates. All these things must be included in your must be given in your estimate. So with this, we finish this this presentation on estimates. So this we have already covered. What we have covered here, we have covered what is the means estimates and their types. What are different types of costs? What do you mean by analysis of rates and how these are arrived? What is their significance? We have also seen the schedule of rates and how we make use of them. While using analysis of rate and schedule of rates, we also saw the standard data books, which are very important for you to keep in mind. Then what are the different what are the project estimates, how they are prepared, how they are checked. And this is the last one, the check for estimates, how their abstracts are presented. So all these things we have covered in presentation till this time. So it is now 3:36. It was scheduled, it was supposed to be completed by 2:30. So, sorry, 3:30. No, it was to start at 2 and finish at 3. So we have exceeded by half an hour. So I will request you to take a tea break of as short, take a tea break as short as possible, say 10 minutes. So we will again assemble here for after 10 minutes, take a tea break. Then we will cover the other part of today's lecture, that is on tendering. Okay. If you have any questions, we can take after your tea break. Okay. Okay. Pradeep Kumar Patel says, okay, sir. Right. Thank you. So let us break. I am stopping the sharing. Can we start once again?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so any questions on the previous lecture? No questions? Okay, so we will start with our another presentation that is on tendering, and we will move. I'm sharing my screen. Okay. So this is the topic of our next presentation, tendering and execution of works. So this is one of the basic tasks that every engineer faces. And if this is not included in his job mandate, then probably he will feel like half engineer. So this is very significant topic, that is tendering and execution of work. We will cover under this tender and tender document preparation, NIT and floating of NIT, evaluation of tenders, signing of agreement, execution of works, and payment of bills. But as always, we will move to certain fundamental topics, certain fundamental definitions, which will make things very clear. So why tendering? And what is meant by whether we are dealing with only execution of works or we are dealing with in general with procurement. So generally we are dealing with procurement, and this procurement covers goods, works and services. So always the procurement means it is a public procurement. It can be also called as purchase, public procurement, purchase, government purchase or government procurement, whatever. So it is goods are procured, works are procured and also services are procured. So this procurement can be by acquisition. What we acquire when we procure something, we acquire either ownership or we acquire the right to use. We may also acquire obligations to service. And mind it, all these acquisitions are not without any consideration. So government doesn't want anything for free. Government, whatever public procurement you are carrying out, whether you are acquiring ownership, whether you're acquiring right to use, license or obligation to service, it is not free. So if somebody offers you to do it for free for you, you are not entitled to accept that. Okay, sorry, audio nahi aa raha hai. Okay, I'm sorry. Why it is not coming? Let me check. Just a minute. I'm stopping the sharing.
आ रहा है सर, आ रहा है.
आ रहा है अभी?
आ रहा है सर.
Okay. Okay, now I saw one message that audio was not coming.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So I'm again starting my share. Just confirm if at the time of sharing it is missing or it was only an just one unpredictable things that sometimes happen. Okay, अब आने लगी. Okay, that's all. That's nice. So I was saying that acquisition should not be without any consideration. Means if somebody offers you to do it for free, then you should not accept that offer. Because nobody gives you a free lunch. At some later point of time, he or she or the agency may extract some benefit out of that, and at that point of time you will land in trouble. So this is very important. Nothing for free. You are not going to accept anything for free when you are making a public procurement. Now, how this public procurement is done? These are the methods. So you make a purchase or you give a work order. You also acquire certain things for by lease, right to use, also license for use, and then hire, outsourcing. So these are some of the methods. And public procurement can be done from, so what will be the sources of funds? Either it will be public funds or there are other funds, means grants, loans, gifts, private investments, etc. Then who is who is carrying out this procurement? It is called procuring entity. So procuring entity is either executive engineer, subdivisional engineer, or whoever is issuing the by purchase order, supply order, or work order. So it may be direct procurement, either through you can direct place order directly through GEM, or you may acquire it through an agency. For example, if you have a service contract, then you may award it to certain agency and then you will receive the services and pay to the agency. So these are some of the important fundamental parts of the public procurement process. What is the statutory framework for public procurement? What do you mean by statutory framework? Means framework as established by law. Statutory means pertaining to the law. So we must remember that there is no exclusive law which governs public procurement. No specific law. But then there are a number of legislations and also provision of the constitution which govern the public procurement. First of all is Article 299 of the Constitution. What it says, that contracts legally binding on the government have to be signed in writing by officers specifically authorized to do so. Means if any contract is being signed on behalf of the government, only an authorized officer who has been specifically authorized to sign into the agreements, only he can enter that into the contract, and only that contract will be legally binding on the government. In general, who is the authorized officer in Central Water Commission's divisions? It is the executive engineer who invites all the tenders on behalf of the President of India. Then there is also one fundamental right, Article 19(1)(g), which lays down the right to carry profession. So you can also have procurement business. Anybody has the procurement business, and anybody has the right to make offer according to the terms and conditions invited by the government for public procurement. Then there is Indian Contract Act of 1872, Sale of Goods Act 1930, Arbitration and Conciliation Act of 1996, and then relatively newer ones, that is Competition Act of 2002, Information Technology Act of 2000. So you see, there are different categories of laws or provisions of the Constitution which hold the play into the field of public procurement. So this is a kind of hierarchy. What is the meant by hierarchy? Hierarchy. This is the hierarchy. So at the topmost level is the Constitution of India, and at the bottommost is the standard bidding documents of procuring goods, works, consultancy, or local manuals, departmental manuals. So it is at the lowest level, it is at the highest level. In between are the levels of law, GFR, DFPR that we dealt with yesterday, and then rules framed under GFR and financial power, delegation of financial power rules. What does it mean? That if there is any violation of the higher one, so for example, if there is any clause in the standard bidding document for procurement of goods which is violative of say DFPR or violative of GFR or violative of these acts or the Constitution of India, then that clause will be null and void. That cannot be implemented because we cannot go, this level cannot go against the higher level. This is the hierarchy. So this is the uppermost level which governs. Nothing can be in violation of the Constitution of India. Then these are the laws. Below Constitution, these are the laws which have been made following the provisions of the Constitution of India. Then these are GFRs and DFPRs. They have been made by the government following the authorization it has received under the Constitution of India and under the laws. Then there are any other financial vigilance, security, safety, counter trade, other orders and guidelines of the government on the subject of public procurement. So whatever manuals or guidelines or vigilance manuals, etc., are being issued by the government, they will come after GFR and DFPR. So they will come over and above your departmental manuals. So CPWD work manual is much below. So there are manuals issued by the Department of Finance Department and Department of Expenditure, that is on procurement of goods and works and also procurement of consultancy services. So they take precedence over the departmental manuals, that is CPWD works manuals or standard bidding documents. This is in a hierarchical structure that you must remember. So this is the manual for procurement of goods as issued by the Finance Ministry, that is Department of Expenditure. Herein we will see what is goods, what are works, and what is services. How do you define? What is the distinction between goods and works? Services is obvious, but then how do you differentiate goods and works? For example, there is, say, our tender is there for supply, installation, and commissioning of real-time data acquisition system, that is telemetry system. And then also there is repair and maintenance of vehicles. You supply the work or you give the work order to the repairing agency or say authorized dealer, authorized workshop. You issue a workshop. Whether you are doing a procurement of goods, whether you are doing procurement of works. Accordingly, your booking of expenditure will also be decided. If it is works, it will go into one works. If it is goods, it will go into M&D. If it is vehicle, it will go to MV. So these are the primary units of appropriation. So it is very necessary to understand the fundamental similarities and differences between these two words. So what is goods? How goods has been defined in this manual. So this is how this goods has been defined. You can see on your screen. I further enlarge it. You see this. Goods includes all articles, material, commodity, livestock, medicines, furniture, fixtures, raw materials, consumables, spare parts, instruments, machinery, equipment, industrial plant, vehicles, aircrafts, ships, railway rolling stock assemblies, sub-assemblies, accessories, a group of machines. Then such other categories of goods or intangible products like technology transfer, licenses, patents, or other intellectual properties. So say for example, if you purchase MS Office, nowadays it is called Office 365. Now, very recently, it has now been renamed as Office 365 Copilot. or Microsoft 365 Copilot, like that it has been named. Now, if you are using a pirated one, that is an altogether different matter. But if you purchase an authorized one, then this software will be classified under procurement of goods. Why? Because intangible properties. So here it is written procured or otherwise acquired by a procuring authority. Similar intellectual property licenses, technology transfer licenses, patents, or other intellectual properties. So our common sense, whatever our common sense says, that is included here. But a procurement of goods may include, these are very important lines, the last sentence, you just read it. I am reading it aloud. Procurement of goods may include certain small work or some services. So it is not necessary that only articles and goods are there. Procurement of goods also includes small works or some services. Of what type? Which are incidental or consequential to the supply of such goods, such as transportation. So which are the works and services? Transportation, insurance, installation, commissioning, training and maintenance. So now you see, where should our expenditure on supply, installation and commissioning and maintenance of real-time data acquisition system, how it should be classified? It should be classified as procurement of goods. And if it is classified as procurement of goods, where it should be booked? It should be booked under M&D. So what is M&D? M&D is machinery and equipment, the primary unit of appropriation that I explained yesterday. What is the primary unit of appropriation? That is the smallest unit in which a record of government expenditure is kept headwise. It is the smallest unit which classifies the government expenditure. So that is the primary unit of expenditure. So suppose if government wants to know, yes, how much expenditure I have incurred in M&D, in all these schemes and everything, then the government's account holder, who is an accountant general, he will have all the records computerized. It will give just one search command in PFMS. What is the total expenditure under M&D? And it will give in one search, one query search, M&D expenditure will be displayed. So this is the primary unit which will which will classify the expenditure. So the important thing is that procurement of goods may also include certain small work or some services which are incidental or consequential. So because if you are taking an instrument, say telemetry system, so it needs to be installed, it needs to be commissioned, the using persons, they need to be trained, and then subsequently maintenance also has to be carried out. So all these works are included in the procurement of goods. Okay. So where are we? Full screen में था. Okay. So this is how goods are defined. Now let us see how the works are defined. So this work has been defined again in the procurement manual issued by Ministry of Finance, Department of Expenditure, and it defines works like this. I am reading it aloud. You also read it on your screens. I am making it full screen so that it becomes easily visible to you and becomes readable. Works refers to any activity sufficient in itself or fulfill an economic or technical function involving construction, fabrication, repair, overhaul, renovation, decoration, installation, erection, excavation, dredging, and so on, which make use of a combination of one or more of engineering design, architectural design, material and technology, labor, machinery, and equipment. So all these things, these will be incorporated in your estimates. that is engineering design, architectural design, material and technology, labor, machinery and equipment. So we can say that yes, work in activity being done according, making use or being done as per certain standard estimate. And what this includes: construction, fabrication, repair, overhaul, renovation, decoration, installation, erection, excavation, dredging. Now there was installation of telemetry system. Therein we said that it is a procurement of goods. Now here we are saying installation, but we are classifying it as works. So what is the difference? How we will distinguish? So see the next sentence. Supply of some materials or certain services may be incidental or consequential to and part of such works. So when you are going to execute certain kinds of works, then supply of some material or certain services may be incidental. For example, if you are preparing roads, then you may be required to establish certain laboratories for testing. For that, you may be required to procure certain equipment also. Those equipment will be required for installation also, but they will all be incidental to the construction of roads. Therefore, these may be classified as works. So the term works includes what? Civil works for the purposes of roads, railways, airports, shipping, ports, bridges, buildings, irrigation systems, water supplies, sewerage facilities, dams, tunnels, earthworks, and so on. And mechanical and electrical works involving fabrication, installation, erection, repair, and maintenance of a mechanical electric. So how will you find out whether it is incidental or consequential? One simple way is, though it may not apply to all the cases, but in majority of the cases it will become clear from this criteria. What is the amount of cost that you are going to pay? If supply, say if it is a works tender, then the cost of works component may be 75 or 80%, and some of the material may be only 5% or 10%. For example, say if you are constructing a building, then certain steel will be required, certain reinforcement steel will be required to be procured. So this may be covered under works only. Similarly for water supply, similarly for dams, tunnels, etc. So depending upon the cost, you can have a fair judgment whether this is incidental or not. And then accordingly, you can classify whether it is goods or works. But then again, the goods and works, there was one distinguishing phrase that makes whether goods are incidental and consequential to works, or whether works is incidental or consequential to goods. Depending upon that, it will be classified as goods or works. Services is relatively simpler to understand. Service means any subject matter of procurement other than goods or works, except those incidental or consequential to the service, and includes physical maintenance, professional, intellectual training, consultancy, advisory services, etc. So this is relatively simpler to understand what is meant by this. So when we we have understood what is meant by procurement, what is specifically public procurement, and the essential thing is that there is nothing without consideration. Then we also understood what is meant by works, what is meant by goods, and what is meant by services. We have also understood now that the statutory framework is a hierarchical framework, at the top of which lies our constitution, and at the bottom layer is our bidding documents. It is a hierarchical framework in the sense that constitution holds supreme, then there are certain laws, then there are GFRs and DFPRs, then there are certain other orders and guidelines or directions of the government, then there are departmental regulations, and then your bidding documents. So this is the hierarchical network. But there is one thing to remember, that there is no specific law governing public procurement. So far we have these fundamental things we have learned. Now we will see what are works stages of execution. We have understood what is the process of procurement. Now what are the stages of execution? So the first thing is administrative approval and expenditure sanction. Before that, before obtaining approval, administrative approval and expenditure sanction or technical sanction, you must also have some preliminary estimate of the works that you are, what is the going cost that you are going to incur. Based on that only, the administrative authority will give you in principle approval that yes, the works can be carried out and this is the amount of funds that is allocated for this work. This is administrative approval and expenditure sanction. Then you go for detailed analysis and engineering for that particular work. So you go for detailed design, you prepare estimates, you prepare drawings, you prepare your detailed specifications, etc., and then obtain technical sanction from the competent authority. Who is the competent authority? Who has been delegated the power according to your departmental rules and regulations, who has been delegated the power, who means who has got the competence to accord technical sanction. So after you have obtained administrative approval and expenditure sanction, after you have obtained the technical sanction, so before technical sanction, you must have had a detailed technical estimate prepared also. So administrative approval and expenditure sanction and TS, therein built in, it is inherently assumed that your detailed estimate has also been prepared, your detailed engineering has also been completed. Then the next stage is possession of site partly or fully. Remember this, before award of work or even before calling for the inviting the tenders, because in the NIT also you need to mention whether the site is available to you, whether the site is freely available for work, or for that it is required to be taken, NOC is required to be taken, or certain formalities are required to be done. This is also required to be mentioned in the NIT itself. NIT means notice inviting tender. So you move for possession of the site. Either it should be partly in your possession or fully in your possession. Preferably it should be fully in your possession before start of your tendering process. Then you must obtain clearances from all the authorities, including local authorities. Which are the important authorities? One is Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change. Very obvious, environmental clearance is required, forest clearance is required. Then if you are near coastal, near coast, then coastal regulation, it should be that coastal zone clearance is also required. Then if you are in the tribal area, then from the Ministry of Tribal Welfare is also required, clearance from Ministry of Tribal Welfare. So tribal affairs, that is the name of the ministry. So that is also required. So all, and then if it is buildings or other things, then local permission from the local authorities, that is approval of the layout and FAR ratios and all those things you must get approval from the local authorities. At the same time, you must move for allocation of funds. Unless and until you receive the funds for execution, you should not start incurring liability for the government. So before inviting tenders, you must have funds at your disposal, or you must have the assurance from the competent authority that funds will be provided at appropriate time. Then you start preparing tender documents and NIT. Then approval of tender document and NIT is obtained. Who accords approval? It is called tender accepting authority. Who is tender accepting authority? It is the authority to whom the power has been delegated by your department. Yesterday we saw the delegation of powers to CWC officers. There were different categories. For example, when there is single tender or when it has been openly published and it is a normal tender, there are many bids have been received. Then there is lowest tender. Who accepts? Up to what limit one can accept? All these things have been given in delegation of powers. So that authority holds the competence to accept that tender. He is the tender accepting authority. So he grants approval to the tender document and also to the NIT, that is notice inviting tender, CPWD form 6. Then you go for tendering, right? Tendering means you publish the notice inviting tender, then you receive the bids from the bidders, you prepare the comparative statement, you evaluate different tenders, and then you prepare the comparative statement, arrive at which is the best option available to you, whether it is least cost tender or whether it is quality come cost basis selection. Depending upon that, you choose to whom the work order is to be issued, and then execution of agreement. You issue the letter of intent that yes, your tender has been accepted and come for execution of the agreement. There are certain other formalities to be completed. That is submission of performance guarantee by the contractor or bidder. And then you issue the work order, clearly stating the terms and conditions and also laying down the start of how, when from the start of work will be considered and what will be the time of completion. Then when the work is started, inspection of works is carried out. At certain stages, measurements are carried out. Those measurements are entered into the measurement books by none other than junior engineers, who are the most important stage of most important officer for any engineering department, because it is on his or her shoulders that responsibility of ensuring good quality work, not to say good quality, but stipulated quality of work rests. His shoulders have to be very strong. Therefore, you must know all these rules and provisions. They will provide you the strength in the field. They will give you the guts to take decisions. They will give you the courage to get the things implemented and say firmly, yo, no, this is the correct way of doing. You do it like that. So you are the most important person, though you may be at the bottom of the hierarchy in an engineering department, but you are the most important person as far as quality of the work is concerned. Then payments are made. Payments are made after deducting certain legal statutory deductions. One is TDS, that is income tax and GST, and another is security deposit, which we deduct from the bills, running account bills, and keep it as security for the quality of the work. So stages of execution, I summarized you in this. Administrative, here in it is given in a little more details. Administrative approval and expenditure sanction. What it means? Formal acceptance of proposals by the competent authority of administrative ministry or department. Competence is powers to accord any years excess over N. I have already told you, I already explained it to you just now, and also I had explained this yesterday also. Then technical sanction means a certificate that detailed estimate has been prepared and approved on the basis of a properly detailed design. Who can accord? We have already discussed it. So this is the procurement cycle or process. This in one single slide, this gives the entire, it captures the entire cycle, or it captures the entire process. So first thing is need assessment. You assess your needs, finalize your specifications, and plan your procurement, how you are going to plan. Then bid invitation. Before that, you prepare your bid documents. In publication, publish it, the bid, receive it, and then opening of the bids. Then bid evaluation. This evaluation has to be carried out as per predefined criteria. That is, that criteria must be mentioned in the NIT, and that cannot be changed. You cannot shift the goalpost once the game has started. So that is, the game starts as soon as you publish your NIT. Subsequently, no change in that criteria can be done. And then after evaluating, you award the contract, you sign the contract, you make the agreement, then that contract is executed. Then contract management and closure take place as per following standard procedure. Then disposal of scrap. Whatever materials you have issued departmentally, whatever machines you have supplied from the department side to the contractor, some of it must have turned into scrap. So then that is disposed of. How this is disposed of? Some scrap value is determined, and how this is going to be disposed of is decided, and then ultimately it is disposed of by following. Most of the times it is either disposal or outright destruction and destroy. So this is your procurement cycle or process. So yesterday when we were dealing with general financial rules, so these are the standards of financial propriety. We have already dealt with, we have already discussed it in detail yesterday. But again, I am repeating, you must recall those things and always remember to follow these standards of financial propriety. मतलब ये वित्तीय इसको हम क्या प्रोप्राइटी मतलब क्या कहें, औचित्य, मतलब सही औचित्य के साथ वित्तीय प्रबंधन होना चाहिए, एक मानक के अनुसार आपका आचरण होना चाहिए, जिससे आप गवर्नमेंट फाइनेंसेस को सही तरीके से प्रॉपरली मतलब उचित तरीके से आप इसका निपटारा कर सकें या खर्च कर सके गवर्नमेंट। तो क्या क्या करना है आपको, क्या क्या फॉलो करना है? यू मस्ट एक्सरसाइज विजिलेंस, ऑर्डिनरी प्रूडेंस। और व्हाट इज ऑर्डिनरी प्रूडेंस? तो एक ऑर्डिनरी आदमी कैसे खर्च करता है, देखता है कि भाई मेरे पास जितना पैसा है उस पैसे से मेरे को मैक्सिमम वैल्यू लेना है। तो मेरे को अब क्या लेना है वो मेरे दिमाग में पहले से है, मैंने वो चीज पहले फर्म अप कर ली है कि मतलब क्या है कि आई हैव डिसाइडेड माय specifications, I have assessed my need, I have decided my specifications, I go to the market, find out the rates, whoever is giving me at the lowest rate, those things which satisfy my requirements, then that is the maximization of the value for money. So that has to be done. And then vigilance means मैं किसी फ्रॉड आदमी से के पास तो नहीं जा रहा हूँ कि मेरा पैसा लेके भाग जाए और मेरे को सप्लाई न करे पैसा, या मैं सही तरीके से खर्च कर रहा हूँ कि नहीं, मैं ज्यादा तो नहीं दे रहा हूँ उसको। ये this is the vigilance or ordinary prudence. Then right quantity and right price. It should be prima facie visible when you are making procurement. It should not be excess quantity, it should not be short quantity, and it should be the right price. आपको समझ में आ जाता है, अगर आप right price पे नहीं लेते हैं तो you can find out this has been purchased in excessive. For example, a few days ago, I was seeing that one steel spoon has been procured here in some Gram Panchayat. One spoon recorded as having been procured at rupees 500 per piece. Now, this is prima facie not right price. It is inflated price. And then 1,000 spoons have been procured. Now, what for 1,000 spoons have been procured? So it becomes obvious that this procurement has been carried out to provide certain advantage to either some person or group of person or to own benefit. These are the next bullets, that whatever procurement you are doing, it should not be to your advantage or not for the benefit of a particular person or section of the people. Another bullet is not of much relevance here because this pertains to the relevance, and avoid conflict of interest in respect of past decisions. Conflict of interest nahi hona chahiye. If your relatives are involved, then you should not be part of that tendering process. Or if you are doing certain tendering process, if you are involved in tendering process, then your relatives must not be must not participate in that. So these are some of the clauses also included in the integrity clauses. So coming to the first step of your procurement cycle, this is the need assessment. So this is the need assessment. So description and specifications you decide, and how will you are going, what is your going to be your aim when you are going for procurement, that you should have you should realize value for money. You should carry it out in a transparent manner. You should also make a decision that doesn't curtail the competition. It should be such that proper competition among bidders happens, and then it should be a level playing field for all the bidders. There it should not be some group must not be getting undue advantage of its position. So what are the important things? So specifications, description and specifications, you must decide your specifications, and because these are the benchmarks for bid processing. Whenever bids are received and then you are evaluating the bids, then you will compare the bid with the specifications that you have stipulated, whether the bid is in compliance with the specification or not. If the bid is in compliance with the specification, you will say it is a responsive bid. Means you will examine the bid, you will compare it with your specification benchmarks, you will evaluate, and then you will decide whether the bid is responsive or not. So what is required at this stage to ensure that your description must be unambiguous? Means it should be very clear. There should not be scope of deriving two meanings or three meanings from that description. There should be clear to even a layman. There is only one single meaning to that description. Then it should be as per guidelines. Avoid brand names, etc. Right? For example, you will not when you are hiring a vehicle, you should not mention that I want Innova, or I want Fortuner, or I want Ciaz. No, you can, if it is unavoidable, for example, if VIP has come and you want an Innova or Fortuner, then you can, just to make for easy conveyance, you can say that means brand name means Fortuner or substantially equivalent, like that. So then it becomes an example only. You are not saying that I want Fortuner, but I am giving you an example that's similar to this vehicle I want. Then you, the method that you decide for procurement, it should lead to proper competition. It should provide level playing field, right? Then time, schedule and place must be mentioned, and the need assessment में अगर आप डिले करेंगे तो आपका सारा का सारा वर्क ही डिले हो जाएगा. Formulate specifications by ensuring these 1, 2, 3, 4 characteristics, and then estimation of cost. This is very important, that your rates must be reasonable. How are you going to estimate? How are you going to prepare the estimate? The three important criteria that I told you: it should be comprehensive, it should be appropriate, it should be reasonable. So formulation of technical specifications, it is one, and I have already described these things. I will just give you the essential technical parameters that must be included in all the technical specifications. This is given in your manual for procurement of public procurement of goods and works. So these are the important particulars that you must mention in your technical specifications. Not all things may be required in a given case, but this is an exhaustive, more or less exhaustive list. Whatever is applicable must be included in your technical specifications. So you can see scope of supply and also end use of required goods. Serial number 2, all essential technical, qualitative, functional, environmental and performance characteristics and requirements, workmanship and manufacturing processes, wherever applicable. So all these things means, where do you get these technical specifications from? You will get these technical specifications for civil works at least from the schedule of rate. There in the nomenclature gives some specification, but then there is also one volume which gives detailed specification related to that particular item. So therefrom those specifications must be taken and prescribed. So your bill of quantities, that is why when I was dealing with your preparation of estimate, I told you that detailed nomenclature, don't make compromise in mentioning that detailed nomenclature. It is very important, because that nomenclature itself gives some of the specifications of the work that you are going to, that you want to be done. So similarly, drawings, requirement of the BIS marks, etc., then requirement of advanced samples, special requirements. So these are the things that warranty requirement, qualification criteria, etc., all these things are mentioned. So we have dealt with formulation of technical specifications. So procurement, then we come to, once we have finalized our specification, we come to procurement planning. How we are going to procure, so that the work is, if we are going for procurement of works, it is completed in time. If we are going for procurement of goods, the goods are received in time for further use, so that our works are not getting delayed. Delay in completion of any works or supply of goods is a very serious matter. Unfortunately, in Central Water Commission, we have not realized in its importance. Remember, there is one very specific phrase, legally valid and also included in the law, also included in CPWD works manual. What is that? That time is and shall always remain the essence of the agreement. Means time is the most important essence of the agreement. If you are not finishing the work in time, you are in breach of that agreement, and it leads to many complications if your work is getting delayed. So as a part of the executing branch of engineering department, your endeavor must be to get your works or supply of goods completed in time. Whatever time is prescribed, whatever time is at your disposal, you must plan your works and supply according to that. So how can you do it? If it is a very big work, you can make a suitable parts, that is called packaging. Or if there are many smaller works, you can club them together, and that is called clubbing. So clubbing and packaging must have very reasonable and connections, and must, whenever you are doing clubbing or packaging, you must have recorded you must record reasons, and also this should be clearly decipherable from whatever you are writing. So efficiency and economy, wider competition, access to MSMEs, these may be some of the criteria for packaging or clubbing, and not to avoid obtaining approval of higher authority. Many a time people do like this, that they split up the work just so that it becomes it falls in competence of, say, executive engineer or superintending engineer. If it is in it falls in executive engineer, so they avoid going to superintending engineer, or they avoid going to the chief engineer or even higher. So they will split up the work, but then it becomes obvious when you go for the audit, and then unnecessary audit paras are invited. Then you also decide what is going to be my eligibility criteria. Eligibility criteria for bidders. My eligibility criteria means not mine, but eligibility criteria for bidders. This is also called pre-qualifying criteria. This must be included in the NIT. So this should be reasonable and justifiable. It should not be excessive. So to curtail the competition, if you make a very stiff pre-qualifying criteria or eligibility criteria, very less people may be able to bid, and consequently competition may be curtailed. So your eligibility and PQ criteria should be reasonable and justifiable. Then you must also comply with the government regulations. And one of the most important regulation is Make in India regulations. Then there are certain provisions for the startups and MSMEs. What are the provisions for MSMEs? That these MSMEs and startups, they are more or less similar. We will first cover what is the MSMEs. So this is covered by public procurement policy for micro and small enterprises. This was promulgated earlier in 2012, then 18 and 21. So this is providing tender documents free of cost, exempting MSEs from payment of earnest money deposited. Then exemption from paying performance bank guarantee is not covered. That is why I have written not very very prominently in red. So you must say, you must see what is excluded from the exemptions to MSMEs. And relaxation in prior turnover and prior experience criteria during tender process, subject to meeting of quality and technical specifications. So in quality and technical specifications, we will not make any compromise. But then if quality and technical specifications are fulfilled, then we can relax the criteria of prior turnover and prior experience for MSMEs. Similar is the criteria for startups. So what is a startup? That has been defined in this rule 173.1, and startups as defined as DIPP, so Department of Public Procurement, not more than 5 years old, turnover in any year should be less than 25 crores. So this is a startup has been defined, and what kind of exemptions they receive. The condition of prior turnover and prior experience may be relaxed for startups, subject to meeting of quality and technical specifications and making suitable provisions in the bidding documents. That's all. Nothing is said about earnest exemption for earnest money or performance guarantee, right? Now we will come to the Make in India provisions, because our procurement must be in compliance with the Make in India. आत्मनिर्भर भारत के लिए ये बहुत जरूरी है। और हमने जीएफआरस में मैंने जो आपको कल बताया कि 2005 के जीएफआरस को रिवाइज करने की जरूरत क्यों थी, कुछ और जो कारण बताए थे, उसके साथ साथ ये भी एक कारण था कि हमें ये जो आत्मनिर्भर भारत को एक पॉलिसी फ्रेमवर्क में इंक्लूड करना था, ताकि हम WTO, वर्ल्ड ट्रेड ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के वायलेशन में ना चले जाए। तो हम जो प्रेफरेंसेस या जो भी चीजें दे रहे हैं, they can be construed by any foreign country as in violation of WTO, and they take India, they may take the dispute against India to WTO. So to avoid those things, proper legal framework must be made. So these Make in India preference, public procurement preference to Make in India order of 2017 was promulgated by the government. Therein the policy of the government was declared, and then this has also been enabled by rule 153.3 of the GFR 2017. Subsequently, these two orders have been issued, that is 2020 June 20 and September 2020. So what are these? Rule 153. This is the rule 153.3. This is this. The central government may, by notification, provide for mandatory procurement of any goods or services from any category of bidders on the grounds of promotion of locally manufactured goods or locally provided services. So these are our declared policies and declared rules. So this is covered under GFR 2017. This is an extract of GFR 2017, Rule 153.3. Then order of June 2020. What does it say? This is the order which defines. First thing is, we are saying that yes, our this particular procurement, public procurement, these are the revised public procurement preference to make in India order of 2017 dated 4/6/20 effective with immediate effect. Herein you see we are making reference to the policy of the government of India. Also, we are making references to our rules, etc. So here we have defined local content. What is meant by local content? What is meant by class 1 local supplier? What is meant by class 2 local supplier? So who is class 1 local supplier? Local content means what? Local content means the amount of value added in India, which shall otherwise prescribed by the nodal ministry be the total value of the item procured minus the value of imported content in the item as a proportion of the total value in percent. So what does it mean? Say, for example, local content, if something has 70% local content, it means what? That in making of that particular item, 30% items have been imported. Value of 30%, items imported have got the value of 30%, and items produced in India have got the value of 70%. So that is local content is 70%. Why it is significant? Because government has been authorized by these orders to lay down stipulation that yes, for this particular category, local content must be this much percent. Otherwise, then only government will procure that particular item. So for that stipulation, government has adopted these two mechanisms. They have defined class 1 local supplier and class 2 local supplier. Class 1 local supplier means a supplier or service provider whose goods, services or works offered for procurement has local content equal to or more than 50% as defined under this order. So class 1 local supplier means it is directly related to local content. It is not related to their capacity, financial capacity, or their prior experience, etc. Class 1 local supplier means the one whose item has local content equal to or more than 50%. And class 2 local supplier is the one who has got local content more than 20% but less than 50%. So why is this important? We come again here. So local supplier, they have specified eligibility. Eligibility of class 1 local supplier, class 2 local supplier, non-local supplier. So they have specified कि class 1 local supplier किस चीज के लिए eligible होगा, वो तो सब चीजों के लिए applicable होगा. class 2 local supplier सब चीजों के लिए eligible नहीं होगा. In procurement of all goods services not covered under subpara 3A and with estimated value of purchases less than 200 crore in accordance with so and so, global tender inquiry shall not be issued except with the approval of the competent authority as designated by Department of Home Expenditure. Only class 1 local supplier and class 2 local supplier as defined on the order shall be eligible to bid in procurements undertaken by entities. Means फॉर एनी टेंडर्स प्रैक्टिकली 200 करोड़ से कम के काम के लिए सिर्फ क्लास 1 लोकल सप्लायर और क्लास 2 लोकल सप्लायर ही बिड करने के लिए एलिजिबल होंगे. नॉन लोकल सप्लायर्स एक्सेप्शनल केसेस में ही बिड कर पाएंगे, वो भी तब जब अगर कंसर्न मिनिस्ट्री इसको सर्टिफाई करेगी. वी विल सी दीज. यहां से आपको देखने में उतना समझ में नहीं, मतलब हो सकता है कि क्लैरिटी ना आए. आगे हम इसको प्रेजेंटेशन के फॉर्म में देखेंगे. फिर उसके बाद एक ऑर्डर और हमने इशू किया सितंबर 2020 में. व्हाई वी हैव इशूड दैट? ऑल दीज थिंग्स आर सेम, राइट? बट देन परचेज प्रेफरेंस इज आल्सो द सेम. देयर इज important, very important provisions, and I will show you those provisions here. You see these reciprocity clauses. You all know we have got, India has got her neighbors who love India very much and always create out of their love problems for India. But then they were habituated of taking advantage of India. So now India has made certain policy that includes reciprocity clauses. So if any country has any restrictive policy, which restricts Indian bidders or Indian goods, then India will do the same. India will reciprocate similarly. This is reciprocating clauses. Similarly, all those countries which share land borders with India, they will have to get themselves registered with the government's authorized agency before they can participate in bidding process. So by these two, we are controlling those bidders who hail from such countries which adopt restrictive policies against India, so that they also do not get undue advantage of Indian markets. So here, as I told you, what is local content? This has been defined. Class 1 local supplier whose local content is equal or more than 50%. Class 2 local supplier whose local content is more than 20% but less than 50%. Non-local supplier is one whose goods and services are offered for procurement has local content less than that prescribed for class 2 local supplier. So at present, the limit for class 2 local supplier is 20%. So anybody having local content less than class 2 local supplier will be classified as non-local supplier. So non-local supplier will not be able to participate in any of the tenders whose estimated cost is less than rupees 200 crores. So eligibility of class 1 local supplier, class 2 local supplier, what is this? Only class 1 can bid if the nodal ministry or department has communicated that there is sufficient local capacity and local competition irrespective of purchase value. So in those fields where we have got sufficient capacity, only those supplier will be able to bid whose local content equals or exceeds 50%. Then class 1 and class 2 local suppliers, in the first category, if it is not applicable, then class 1 and class 2 local suppliers can bid, but not non-local suppliers. Less than 200 crores, no global inquiries. But if it exceeds 200 crores, then non-local suppliers shall also be eligible to bid. And global tender inquiry can be issued only if the estimated value or estimated cost is more than rupees 200 crore. So this is the importance of Make in India clauses. So there are purchase preferences given. So and then reciprocity clauses. Countries adopting restrictive policy for Indian products and services. This is the this is the reciprocity clause. When a nodal ministry that Indian what is in nutshell, I have already explained to you that if a nodal ministry or department identifies that Indian suppliers of an Indian item are not allowed to participate and or compete in procurement of any foreign government due to restrictive tender conditions, which have direct or indirect effect of barring Indian companies such as registration in the procuring country, execution of projects or specific value, it shall provide such details to all its procuring entities, including so state governments and entities of countries which have been identified in this way are as not allowing Indian companies to participate in their government procurement for any item related to that nodal ministry shall not be allowed to participate in government procurement in India for all the items related to that ministry and department. Right? So this is an example for I will give you an example how this comes to the aid of India. For example, in Nepal, some of the India was barred from bidding from some of the projects. Then India, when decided this policy, they also said that we will not procure any electricity from these projects, from which our means our bidders have been restricted. So what happens? What is the net effect of that? Because they may get power projects installed by China, but then evacuating that power to China will become uneconomical. Uneconomical. The nearest market is India, and only it will be economical only if they supply to India. And if India refuses to purchase, then that entire investment will become zero, rather a burden on the country, because it is a soft loan, so-called soft loan of China. So it has had salutary effect on the restrictive policies, and then again Indian companies have been allowed to bid for those power projects. So this is how these reciprocity clauses come into picture. And then this is the countries which have share our land border with India. So this is this. Any bidder from a country which shares a land border with India. ये वाला देखिए, serial number 2. Any bidder from a country which shares a land border with India will be eligible to bid in any procurement, whether of goods, services, etc., or works, only if the bidder is registered with the competent authority specified in Annexure 1. So unless and until you register yourself, you will not be able to bid in my country. This has been the provision with the countries which share land border with India. So which are the countries which share land border with India? Obviously, Pakistan, Afghanistan, China, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh. Am I missing any other? I think I have completed. So these are the very important provisions of Make in India. Then procurement planning also includes deciding on the system of bidding that you are going to adopt. That is single stage bidding or two stage bidding, then single bid or two envelope bids. So normally what has happened, then another thing is mode of procurement, that is open tender inquiry or limited tender inquiry or short tender inquiry, right? But nowadays, when it has been made mandatory to make all the procurements through GEM, that is government e-market. So the beauty of GEM is that all these provisions have been incorporated in the processes being implemented under GEM. So GEM adopts those procedures which are broadly in compliance with all the GFRs, DFPR, also the Department of Expenditure's manuals on procurement of goods and services, legal implications of the contracts and agreements, and also Make in India startups and MSMEs. All these provisions have been incorporated in GEM. Therefore, now government procurement has become very simpler, very tension free. Earlier it was a great tension to make any government procurement, particularly those procurement which are of big value. So now it has been very much simplified, and if you resort to GEM, it will be not only very simplified, you will sleep calmly in night. There will be no stress because there is no individual discretion available under GEM. Whatever decision is taken, GEM nowadays even GEM gives the lowest bidder. So, or even GEM does its own lottery when there are more bidders giving the same quote. They have quoted the same value. So it has made your life very much simpler in procurement. So normally, when GEM was not there, what were the risks? Risks were in packaging, slicing, or clubbing together, because they attracted audit paras. And clear policy of packaging and bundling, if it was available, then those risks were mitigated. But nowadays with the GEM, This risk always still remains, means packaging and slicing or bundling, because this is part of your estimation process also. So you will have, whenever you are making an estimate, you will also think of packaging or bundling. Bundling means clubbing together. Whether you want to package it in different packages, or you want to club different pieces of works, that needs to be decided at the time of estimate. So estimation and procurement planning, they go hand in hand. You must plan for procurement, you must prepare your estimate accordingly. So estimation and tendering, we are following CPWD works manual. Sorry. We are following CPWD works manual in Central Water Commission. As yesterday, when I was giving you about the delegation of works powers to CWC officers, everywhere it was written that CPWD works manual will be followed as it is applicable to us. So a self-contained publication for guidance, it is available for us. Now, apart from the CPWD works manual volume, there is another volume which is supplementing the CPWD works manual, that is SOPs, that is standard operating procedures. They have given step-by-step procedures for tendering, examination, and all those processes that are involved in estimation and tendering. They have given SOPs. You must you must study these SOPs. These are very important. Then these SOPs this is followed not only by CPWD but several other central government organizations including CWC. So CWC officers have works and financial powers for works on similar lines as their counterparts in CPWD. They are on similar lines but not of similar amounts. So yesterday we have seen that. So, and this all estimation and tendering, this is the hierarchical framework, that is laws, GFR, DFPR, government orders, and then general conditions, clauses of the contract, which is part of the bid document. All these prevail over the manual. So these are more important than the manual. Manual is basically for your guidance and directions. We have seen yesterday what are the authorization for departmental regulations. There are different GFR and DFPR, which authorize the government to make departmental regulations, and accordingly departmental regulations for CPWD have been made, and accordingly CWC they have been adopted. Then what are the different tender documents and NIT? There is open tender, means tenders not invited on a restrictive call basis. Limited tender and restricted works, those which are on restrictive call basis. This restrictive works may also include some secret or special nature of works. So that will be a very limited tender inquiry. Then works without call of tender. Yesterday I explained that all those quotations and nominations, these are considered as works without call of tenders. Then composite tenders. Composite tenders are those which involve more than one discipline. For example, civil and horticulture, and electrical and mechanical, and also services. So types of tender inquiries. So what are these types of tender inquiries? One is open tender inquiries, which is open for all according to the eligibility criteria. Limited tender inquiry, we have already learned in previous slide. Then there is two-bid system. Two-bid system means simultaneous receipt of separate technical and financial bids. There is one envelope. Inside one envelope, there are two envelopes. One contains technical bid, another contains financial bids. Technical bids contains the information given by the bidder in support of his qualifications, and also specifying how the bidder is in compliance with the technical specifications and other requirements of the bid. This is given in the technical bid. Once a bidder qualifies in on technical consideration, then only its financial bid envelope is opened. Otherwise, that financial bid envelope remains closed. Only if it qualifies for technical, only if it qualifies technically, then only financial bid is open. Then there are two stages. This is two bid system, two envelope system. This is two stage bidding. Means in the one stage, two stages with receipt of final bids after receipt and evaluation of technical bids. So first we invite technical bids in the form of request for proposal, and then subsequently financial bids are invited. Then there are also single tender inquiry. There may be items which are proprietary and there are items which are IPR protected. For example, if you want to purchase MS Office, then it is IPR protected as well as this is a proprietary item. So for procuring that, you will have to have a proprietary article certificate. Then in emergency also, you can call some contractor and assign the work, award the work, of course, on standard rates. And then when there are issues of compatibility of spares and equipment, suppose you have got one machine and it has got certain spares which is made by only one company, then you have no other alternative but to go to that particular manufacturer and purchase spares. So these are the things, these are the conditions where single tender inquiry is also permissible. So open tender inquiry, you all know this because you have already had more than 1 year. So we will not go into details, but then this is the simplest method. And whenever the cost is more than 25 lakhs, it is the default mode for which we go. And this best value for money. Nowadays, we are going for tender inquiry through GEM. So all these risks have been eliminated. For example, inadequate publicity. There is no question because GEM has provided publicity periods built into its system. Then hindrance in availability of bid documents. It is now not, it is freely available on GEM. Insufficient time for bid preparation. Question doesn't arise because the bid document is available, time is equal for all. Then onerous cost of bid documents and EMD. So here the concessions to MSMEs and startups have been given, and then cost of bid documents have also been standardized. And lack of clarity in description or specifications, yes, this still remains, because if you are preparing a custom bid under GEM, then you must very clearly specify or describe what you want. So recall the slide on need assessment, the clarity in description and specification, this is very much relevant. And also the qualifying criteria, it should not be unduly stringent. So these are some of the risks involved associated with open tender inquiry, but this is the best method, and this is the default mode and relatively easier to do it. Now, limited tender inquiry, when the value is less than 25 lakhs but more than 2.5 lakh, then you can go for restricted bid invitation to a pre-selected list of vendors. Now in Central Water Commission, I understand that no organization nor the headquarter has drawn a panel of contractors. So this is now not possible in Central Water Commission. Restricted bid invitations to a pre-selected list of vendors, because pre-selected list of vendors is not available. Then proprietary article certificate. This is again, there are competent authorities prescribed under delegation of financial power rules, which will give you a proprietary article certificate. Means this certificate, this article is proprietary and is needed and essentially required. This kind of certificate is given by the competent authority, and then you can go for single tender. So what are the challenges and risks involved in this? That you will receive very high rates. Then also there is a tendency to perpetuate. Means if on one occasion you have gone for one particular OEM or one particular IP protected item, then it will keep on repeating. This is what is happening with MS Office. Now nobody uses those open source software for word processing, etc., because they are not as simple as that MS Word or MS PowerPoint or MS Excel. So there is a tendency to perpetuate, and justification for such procurement should be critically examined. So whenever there is a proposal for proprietary article, if you are posted in, say, superintending engineer's office or office of chief engineer or in the headquarter branch of the executive engineer, you may be required to examine such proposals for procuring a proprietary article. Then you must critically examine it, whether these are specifically against these challenges, that is higher rates and tendency to perpetuate, whether it is possible to avoid this. Then direct procurement without quotation. So petty purchases, how do you do it? So very low value, urgent, simple requirements for off the shelf goods, simple day-to-day needs. How do you do it? By local purchase committees. So you can have direct procurement not to exceed threshold value of rupees 25,000. But nowadays in GEM is available to you, so you can have even smaller or petty purchases from GEM. So because now such direct procurement without quotation, they are invariably looked at by the vigilance people whenever they come for vigilance inspection of your office, and also by the auditors. So it is better, if you can avoid it, avoid it. Use GEM. Don't go for direct procurement without quotation. GEM also, these smaller petty items, there may be local suppliers. Just tell them that I have floated in inquiry on GEM, you make your proposal. It is as simple as that. Give 3 days time, 5 days time, and your requirements will be fulfilled. So it is better to adopt GEM for these things. Now, direct procurement by purchase committee. If your procurement is more than 25,000 but less than 25,000, there is a committee. You know all these. All of you must be knowing about these local purchase committees. There are 2 executive engineers and other members, and then they go to the market. They carry out the market survey. They find out credible suppliers, they find out reasonable rates, and then make recommendations, and on the basis of that recommendation, that particular procurement is made. But then it is limited only up to rupees 2,50,000. So those were the things, procurement systems. Now let us come to bidding system. Single stage, single envelope means एक ही envelope में आपके दोनों मतलब एक ही एनवलप में आपका सारा सब कुछ आ गया. Then single stage 2 envelopes means technical and financial bids separate, but they are invited at one go. Then there are 2 stages of bidding, that is expression of interest and request for proposal. So these are the bidding systems involved. There are other bidding systems also, but then we will limit it to these only. Then bidding system, single stage, single envelope. It is suitable when you have your very technical specifications and requirements are very clear, and capability of source of supply is not crucial. It is easily available. The material that you are going, your equipment you are going to purchase is easily available. Then there is not very stringent eligibility criteria required to be made, because your quality requirement and technical specifications are easily fulfilled. So in that case, you go for single stage, single envelope system. Then single stage 2 envelopes means there is one technico-commercial bid and there is financial bid. Both these bids are enclosed in one single envelope. So this is one single envelope. Therein lies the techno-commercial bid. So first you open this green envelope, you will encounter the techno-commercial bid. You evaluate the techno-commercial bid, and if you find that yes, techno-commercial bid is acceptable, then and eligible, then you go to single stage, that financial bid. Once you open the financial bid, that contains priced quotation and other relevant financial aspects, and then you decide to whoever is the lowest bidder, you award the work to or supply to that particular bidder. Then bidding systems, 2-stage bidding, expression of interest and request for proposal. Normally these are you will have very less occasions to go for this system of bidding in Central Water Commission. So when this is resorted to, when there is a complex nature of procurement. Say for example, there is a big multi-purpose project, and for irrigation planning you want to carry out. It is a, say, roughly 20 lakh hectares of land, and therein irrigation planning is required to be done. So in that case, you don't have the solution at hand. You don't have the final specifications also ready, because you don't know the extent of that particular area. It may be spread over entire state or entire nation. Say if it is in Nepal, a smaller country, or say if it is a big state like Gujarat, more than 20,000 hectares of irrigation command, then it will be very difficult for you to first survey, then prepare the irrigation planning and all, because they also require expenditure in departmentally. So what you do, you invite solutions from the bidders themselves, so that the technical things become clear. But broad technical solutions, you may identify, yes, this is the kind of solution we require, and sources are available in the market. It may not be available with the department. The department may not have the capacity also to undertake that kind of gigantic work. So private enterprise is used for that. And then first we ask for them to supply their, first we ask them that they should be eligible to bid. That is in the interest, expression of interest. Therein we assess their eligibility to fulfill the work that we have, the work at hand, that is done according to the criteria that has been laid down in the document. It may be quality criteria, or it may be cost criteria, or it may be both, which is called quality cum cost based selection, QCBS. We assign different weightages to quality, and we assign different weightages to cost. Quality, how do we assess? Different parameters are laid down. For example, what is the capacity, what is the past experience of the firm of doing similar kind of works, or what is the manpower that this company can deploy for our kind of work. So this is the kind of parameter and weightages, and then you assign a total score on the basis of which whether a bidder may qualify or may not qualify. Then after it qualifies, we ask them, we prepare a detailed request for proposal based on technical specification, and ask them to fulfill their, to submit their technical solution as well as priced bids. And then again, we decide. So two-stage bidding, expression of interest, invite, then expression of interest is evaluated, and then discussion with and presentation by the presentations by the eligible bidders. Then other stakeholders may also be involved. So after the outcome of the expression of interest is the request for proposal. Then after the request for proposal, it becomes simpler process. This is more or less open tender inquiry with 2 envelope bid, but only among those who have found eligible. Publicity of tenders, this has already been incorporated in GEM, but then just for the sake of completeness, 7 days for cost, estimated cost up to 5 crores. 14 days if estimated cost is more than rupees 5 crores. Receipt, opening and acceptance of tenders. Very well, these are given. The tenders are, all the detailed procedures are laid down to prevent tampering or subversion. Now in GEM, question doesn't arise of tampering or subversion until and unless somebody has hacked the tendering authority's password and username. So keep your username and password, and also your digital signatures very safe. So there is detailed procedure. These have been incorporated in GEM, but then earlier when it was hard copy, when hard copies of tenders were being received, these were the things that used to be taken care of. So tenders are received up to a particular time and date, and that is fixed. If because of certain causes you want to extend that time, you can extend it, but before this particular date. Then opening of tender on the appointed date and time, and when you open it, you record in the register what was the bid, what was the amount of bid, lump sum amount quoted by the tenderer, and during opening you encourage the bidders to be present so that it becomes transparent. Then becomes processing. Now processing means examining all those bids, comparing them with our tender documents and finding if they are compliant or not. In addition, we also deal with corrections, cuttings, overwritings, additions, conditions, etc., which have been done in the tenders. Then, if they have omitted something, that is also to be dealt with. Preparation of comparative statement and checking of comparative statement. Tenders are scrutinized in detail. Then rates, whether they are reasonable and competitive rates, this is ascertained, and then accepting authority decides to accept or reject as per delegated powers. What are the provisions for EMD, performance guarantee and security deposit? EMD is prior to the submission, prior to the opening of the bids. So EMD is deposited along with the tenders. It shows the earnestness of the bidders, and therefore certain amounts are fixed, that is 2% and 1% depends on value threshold of 10 crores. So if it is more than 10 crores, means estimated cost is more than 10 crores, then 1%. If it is less than rupees 10 crores, then 2% of that will be charged as EMD. And it should be waived for petty works which are less than rupees 25,000. Now see also that there are special provisions for MSMEs. So once you receive the performance guarantee, you will return the EMD. You can return or adjust it. So what is performance guarantee? It is after opening of the bid and finding that yes, it is taken from the bidder who has been awarded the work. It ensures that you will discharge all your liabilities according to the contract. So if you do not discharge your liabilities according to the contract, this performance guarantee will be forfeited and the breach of agreement process will be started, tender will be cancelled or rescinded. So 5% of the tendered and accepted value of the work in acceptable form only. So you also prescribe what is the acceptable form, whether it is bank draft, whether it is bond, whether it, any other form, and it is to be deposited within 4 to 15 days of issue of letter of acceptance. When you issue the letter of acceptance, therein it says that the bidder is required to deposit the performance guarantee in the following forms. So in those forms, it has to be deposited. And how long it remains to be valid? 60 days beyond the completion of all contractual obligations. If contractual obligations include the period of warranty, then 60 days beyond the completion of warranty period also. So later to commence work only after PG is deposited. Once the performance guarantee is deposited, then only you will issue the letter to commence the work. Then another deduction is made from the running account bills of the bidder. Whenever there are measurements, one running account bill is made, running account payment is required to be made, then certain amount, that is at the rate of 2.5% of the bill amount, is deducted from that bill and kept as security for that particular work. If the contractor doesn't fulfill the quality requirement or make some other breaches, then this security deposit can also be forfeited. This is under clause 1A of the GCC, that is general clauses of contract. So what is a contract? A contract, there are two things, an agreement and a contract. What is difference between agreement and contract? An agreement is an offer by one party and acceptance by the other. Then it becomes a agreement. If it is a written agreement, if it is an oral agreement, normally oral agreements की कोई value नहीं होती है, लेकिन a written agreement which is enforceable by law is contract. Very loosely speaking, there are legal definitions, but an agreement, a written agreement which is enforceable by law is a contract. Now, what is enforceable by law and what is required if for an agreement to be enforceable under law? So, offer and acceptance of something which is not prohibited by law. So you cannot make a contract for supply of heroin or something which is prohibited by law, right? It is not enforceable by law. Then party entering into an agreement to be competent to make such an agreement. A subdivisional engineer cannot enter into an agreement, and if he signs in an agreement, it will not be enforceable by law because he is not authorized to sign into the agreement. Similarly, on behalf of the bidder, the one who is signing must have the power of attorney from the firm or from the proprietor that that particular signatory is authorized to sign on behalf of the firm or company or the proprietor. And that power of attorney becomes part of agreement itself, part of contract. So these are the things which are very important, and that whenever a contract is being compiled, means there are certain things which form the agreement. So therein, this point must not be overlooked, that power of attorney by the signatory, so that it is established that he is the authorized signatory. So from the government side, the contract is executed for and on behalf of the president. There are standard forms of contract. No work to be commenced without prior execution of contract as per India Contract Act. That integrity pact should also be included in that contract, and complete contract consists of the following. What are these things? Not written here, so I will just explain to you. These are the things which include your NIT, then the bid that is submitted by the contractor, then any of the correspondences that have been held by the contractor, then letter of acceptance, then the letter by which performance guarantee is submitted, then the letter to commence work, and then the signed agreement. These are the parts of the contract. So what are the other important aspects of the contract? So engagement of a technical supervisor. So the contractor must engage a technical supervisor from his side for supervision of the works. Then time extension is one important aspect. There are two things to be considered. One is reason within the control of either the department or the contractor, and reasons beyond the control of any of them. Then again, time extension with or without levy of compensation for delay. Now we are using the word compensation instead of penalty. Penalty is not to be used, and we always say levy of compensation for delay. Then if we are issuing materials and tools and plants to contractors, normally in CWC, this we are not doing. What are the deviations? I explained to you yesterday when I was dealing with the delegation of powers. What are the deviations and what are the extra and substituted items, and the approvals are obtained according to the delegation of powers. Then payments to contractors. One-time payment if the work is less than of rupees 50,000. Otherwise, running account payments are made. And then TDS, tax deduction at source, income tax is deducted, GST, etc. are also included in that. and then cess, etc. is also included. Then very important thing is labor regulations and fair wages, because labor inspectors come and inspect the work sites, etc. So your site must be in compliance with the labor regulations, and also fair wages must be paid to the laborers engaged by the contractor. Contractor though engages the laborer, but you as executing authority remain answerable under the law for engagement of the laborers. Then interpretation of contract clauses. So this is a field of legal persons, and legal precedences are important in that. So extension of time is one thing. Then there are extension of time, delayed performance. Extension of time, I told you that extension of time means the time of completion is very important, and extension of time whenever it is required, it is to be seen very seriously. And extension of time, you study the provisions regarding extension of time. As I told you earlier, time is the essence of contract, right? It is always written everywhere. So clause 5, form 7 and 8 authorizes ENC to grant EOT provided an application is made by the contractor. Application to state grounds and hindrances. Application within 30 days of occurrence of hindrance. ENC is satisfied of reasonability of grounds, and ENC's competence as per departmental delegation. What does it mean? Now, the ENC means not engineer in chief, but engineer in charge. Yes, please. Anybody was saying something? समय हो गया, 5:30 बज गया. बस 5 मिनट में खत्म कर देते हैं, बाकी की चीजें फिर अभी नहीं देखेंगे. But extension of time is very important. So I will just go through this extension of time and then we will finish it. So extension of time can be given, though time is the essence of contract, because there may be certain factors which may be either in control or beyond your control, which may cause certain delay. Now, an engineer in charge is authorized to grant extension of time. The first thing is, though as per agreement, because engineer in charge is the signatory to the agreement, therefore it is he who will convey the grant of extension of time. But if under the departmental regulations he is required to obtain approval of superintending engineer or even higher authority, then that approval he will have to obtain before grant of that time extension. So that this process of obtaining approval of the competent authority is internal process of the department, and conveying the time of extension is the process taking between two parties of the agreement, that is the department and the bidder. So what is the most essential aspect? As soon as your work starts at a given site, your site must have a hindrance register in place. And this must be examined by anyone who is inspecting the site, who visits the sites for inspection. Whenever there is a hindrance to the work is stopped for any reason, that must be recorded in that hindrance register. That pro forma of the hindrance register has also been prescribed. You go to the SOP volume of the CPWD works manual, and therein you will get the details. Now, this EOT can be granted if an application is made by the contractor. Here it is, contractor. An application is made by the contractor. Application also states grounds and hindrances. Application must be made within 30 days of occurrence of hindrance. Then engineer in charge is satisfied of reasonability of the grounds. Yes, it is reasonable that the hindrance has occurred, and because of that hindrance, this hindrance was unavoidable, and that is why delay has taken place. Then EOT can be provided. But what happens if contractor doesn't apply for that? There will be mischievous contractors that you may come across. Then clause 5 authorizes you that even if there is no application by the contractor, engineer in charge can issue the grant of time extension if adequate and proper grounds exist. And if the contractor accepts that letter and doesn't refute it, then it becomes binding on both the parties. And if the contractor doesn't accept it, acceptance may be explicit or acceptance may be implied. Implied means the contractor may not reply or may not react to that letter granting time, unilateral time extension, then it is implied acceptance, right? Maunam swikritim lakshanam. So it is an implied acceptance of the grant of time extension, or he may accept explicitly, okay, I am accepting the time extension and I will complete in the extended time. If it is accepted either expressly or impliedly, it is well. Otherwise, you will run into a dispute. So extension of time, the forms have been standardized for grant of time extension as well as for filing an application for time extension. So which are they? One is Annexure 36 of CPWD Works Manual. Another is Annexure 37 of CPWD Works Manual. Both are given in detail in SOP volume, SOP number 19, SOP volume of CPWD Works Manual. So Annexure 36 deals with application by contractor for extension of time, and Annexure 37 deals with application by contractor for rescheduling of milestones. So the cases, there may be two types of cases: extension of time without rescheduling of milestone and extension of time with rescheduling of milestones. So accordingly, there are two different forms. And then for granting of time extension, there used to be a form prescribed in CPWD Works Manual, which are older. In older CPWD Works Manual, a form was given, but that form has now been omitted from the present editions. But I will suggest that you take this old form and always use this form. Why? Because this form has been legally weighted and its language has been made legally acceptable for the to protect the interests of the government and to protect the executive engineer and also all the executing officers down below him, that is subdivisional engineer and junior engineer. This is the format of that application. It is now not available in the present edition of the CPWD Works Manual volume, but it is available in previous CPWD Works manual. So see here, reference your letter so and so, the date of completion was so and so, but now the extension of time is given up to, and so the revised date of completion will be so and so, right? And last line you must see, provided that notwithstanding the extension hereby granted, time is and shall still continue to be the essence of the said agreement. This is the most important line, and you must invariably include, even when you are not following this pro forma, please include this line whenever you are granting extension of time. It will protect you legally. It will protect your boss legally. It will protect your department legally. This is the most important sentence in the contract agreement or in the matters related to contract. So it protects government's right to recover liquidated damages, that is compensation. So delayed performance, this is related with the extension of time. Now there is clause 2 in the general conditions of contract, right? This is the clause 2. And this says what is the compensation for delay of work. Now you see this clause 2 is already included in your agreement. This agreement has been signed by the executive engineer as well as by the bidder. So what it means? This compensation has already been agreed. This compensation, one, with maximum rate at the rate of 1% per month of delay. this rate has already been agreed by the bidder. So whenever there is an extension of time, this much compensation for delay of work has to be mandatorily deducted, whether you issue levy of compensation or not. Understand this very clearly, that this is the agreed compensation for delay of work, because both have signed it. When you are giving an extension of time with or without levy of compensation, that is another matter. Therein, whatever if you include a levy of compensation and impose levy of compensation at a later date, that may be contested by the bidder. But here, this compensation under clause 2 cannot be contested by the bidder, because he has already agreed for payment of this compensation if it delays the completion work for whatever reasons. So you understand the implication of clause 2 very well. So delays not, all these things are regarding delays, and this is a very detailed, exhaustive topic. I was telling you in that particular slide, this was not included, constituents of an agreement and contract. So what forms a contract? So CPWD form number 6, that is notice inviting tender, CPWD form 7 or 8, then schedule of quantities, letter of the contractor submitting the tender, original letters of the contractor and departmental officers, means correspondence, then later original, all these must be in contract. The letter of the engineer in charge communicating acceptance of tender, letter of intent, then letter of the engineer in charge regarding commencement of work, general conditions of contract containing CPWD safety code, model rules for protection of health and sanitary arrangement for workers employed by the CPWD or its contractors, CPWD labor regulations, fair wage clauses, etc., should also form part of the agreement. So there is a one GCC booklet that is published by CPWD that includes all these things, that is safety code, model rules, then labor regulations, all these things are included in that booklet. That becomes part of your agreement. So these are the included. Then there are forms of agreement. These are not very much relevant, because these are now been implemented under GEM. This is the last one and very important one, that is quality of work. How are you going to ensure the quality of work? So who is responsible for putting in a framework for insurance, for ensuring proper quality of works in the field at the execution stage? Okay, this is the junior engineer who enters the record, who is primarily responsible. Then the SDEs and executive engineer who record test checks, they are also primarily responsible. Then who next? So the CPWD works manual clearly says that SE is responsible for ensuring a quality assurance team at circle level, right? And chief engineer should ensure that the regional quality assurance setup is put in place. So chief engineer must ensure that superintending engineer puts in place a quality assurance team at circle level, which will be responsible for ensuring that these all mechanisms are properly followed. Then at the last, there is inspection by Chief Technical Examiner, Office of Chief Technical Examiner. It is part of CVC, Central Vigilance Commissioner. So they look deeply and minutely into the framing of your estimates and framing of tender conditions and clauses, whether they have been prepared in violation of the standards of financial propriety to give undue advantage to some person or some groups, or some clauses which have inadvertently led to the loss to the government exchequer. All those things are very minutely inspected by Chief Technical Examiner. They are very experienced persons. They have also brought out some guidelines, and you must go through those guidelines. These guidelines were issued in 2009. 2002. So you must go through them. They are very exhaustive, and they will protect you they will give you proper guidance for into the vigilance matters of the tendering. So stages of execution we have already noted. So these are the measurement books. You are already well aware what are the measurement books, etc., because you have now spent almost 1 year, so you know about these things. We will not enter into it. Now e-tendering, that is CPP and GEM. Now we are mostly related with GEM, but now this framework of GEM has been enabled by GFR 2017 itself, which has made that e-procurement has been made now mandatory. This was earlier CPP, Central Public Procurement Portal. Nowadays, it has been made compulsory to make procurement through GEM, that is government e-market. So you are all aware of these GEM government e-marketplace. You have, some of you must be procuring. These are the government e-marketplace details. GFR amendments, which have amendments in the GEM. So these are some of the aspects which have been which I have been able to cover. Some of the very important ones are extension of time. Though had there been more time, I would have considered this also. MB, what are the important points? So this is the measurement books. These are the some of the instructions printed at the beginning. You must go through them. They are very important, then, and you must follow them also. These are very important, and whenever there is a controversy, there is discrepancy, these will come to your protection. If you follow these rules, if you follow these instructions, they will come to your rescue. You follow the rules and rules will protect you. This is the wisdom of an engineering department. All engineers who are executing the works, it is their wisdom. It is not my personal wisdom. It is their wisdom that you follow the rules and rules will protect you. So these are the measurement books, means recording how you should record the measurement. कहीं cutting नहीं होना चाहिए, overwriting नहीं होना चाहिए, बहुत clear cut होना चाहिए, chargeable heads वगैरह सब चीजें properly mention होना चाहिए. क्या क्या चीजें मेंशन होना चाहिए? एक तो ये है मेजरमेंट बुक का रजिस्टर एक डिवीजन में होना चाहिए, वो आप छोड़ दो, आपसे रिलेटेड नहीं है, लेकिन ये सारी चीजें उसमें मेंशन होना चाहिए जब आप रिकॉर्ड करते हैं मेजरमेंट को. फुल नेम ऑफ वर्क एज गिवन इन एग्रीमेंट एंड एस्टिमेट, हेड ऑफ अकाउंट, लोकेशन ऑफ वर्क, नेम ऑफ कॉन्ट्रैक्टर एंड एजेंसी, number and date of agreement, date of written order to commence work, date of actual completion of work, date of recording measurements, and reference to previous measurements. ये था वर्क्स के लिए. नाउ इन केस ऑफ सप्लाई, सिमिलर काइंड ऑफ records is made in that also. So here what should not be done and what should be done, जैसे मैंने आपको बताया, ओवर कटिंग और करेक्टिंग फ्लूइड तो आप भूल के भी मत यूज करिए. We are humans, we can make mistakes. If there is any mistake, simply cut it by a single line and then write it, and countersign that correction by your dated initials, right? So test checks. Junior engineer will record the entire 100% measurements. Subdivisional officer is required to carry out at least 50% checks on the measurements recorded by junior engineer, and executive engineer must record at least 10% of test checks on the measurements made by junior engineer and subdivisional engineers. So this is the certificate of measurement. And remember, your measurement book is a very, very precious legal document. You should not lose it in any circumstances. If it is lost, you will land in great trouble, because writing of a lost MB is very, very tedious, cumbersome task. And because it is a legal document, as soon as a measurement book is lost, an FIR must be lodged with the police. It is a very important document. It is admissible in a court of law as evidence, right? So this you must see. So now bill preparation, etc., we will not see, because now these have been automatically taken care of in your in GEM, how in PFMS. So those bills and all these things are now automatically being done in GEM. So in this way, we have covered tendering and execution of works. First, I covered certain preliminary or fundamental things about procurement of goods, works, and services. Then we dealt with the statutory framework. We also found out what is the distinction between goods and works, what are the qualifying phrases, that is incidental and consequential, which distinguish between goods and works. Then what are the stages of execution of works. Then we explored the execution of stages in detail, specifically the administrative approval and expenditure sanction, and also technical sanction. Then what is the procurement cycle. We also considered the different steps, that is need assessment, what we should keep in mind when preparing our specifications, how the bid invitation is done, what are the preparation of bid documents, how we evaluate the bids, what are the systems of bids, and then what are our standards of financial propriety, need assessment, how do we do formulation of technical specification. Then importantly, we saw what are the important steps in procurement planning, particularly Make in India provisions and also provisions for startups and MSMEs. Then we went on to CPWD works manual provisions and what are the different types of tenders, different systems of biddings, when they can be resorted to, what are the proprietary article certificate, how to make procurement as when there is a when single tender inquiry is permissible, and then direct procurement without quotation or purchase by local purchase committees. And then we saw the different bidding systems. So these are the things. And then tendering, different processes of tendering. Then we saw what are the important aspects of contracts, what is the components of contracts. Then we saw extension of time, means this is one of the most important aspect of extension of time. We explored this extension of time in detail. So in detail, we have gone through this extension of time. If you find time, you go to the older volumes of CPWD works manual, and this will make things very much clear to you. So with after that, we just cursorily saw what are the MBs and how the bill payment is done. And lastly, we just saw a thing called GEM that has been now made mandatory, which you are already aware of. So with this, I finish my presentation on tendering. If you have any questions, because we are you are already delayed now, it is almost 6 o'clock, 1 or 2 questions we can take. But as I told you yesterday, I am always available for clarifying any of the doubts. If you have, you can send me on WhatsApp or you can call me and ask me. I will be most happy if I am able to clarify any of your doubts. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening to such a long presentation on this topic. I am stopping my sharing. Yes, I have stopped now the sharing. If there are any of the questions, please, 1 or 2 questions we will take because you are already delayed. But then subsequently, you can convey your doubts later on also.
Okay, any queries from any of the participants?
Hello.
Okay, let us close then. Probably there are no questions at present.
Oh, we have one participant there, sir. So Mr.
Yes.
Anurag Tiwary.
Hello.
Yes, start your video, Anurag, and ask your question.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Actually, sir, in RMB, I mean, for rent bills also, for site rent bills also, we are doing entry in measurement books.
नहीं,
And
फिर से
for
बोलिए, क्या बोल रहे हैं, नहीं सुना मैं,
entry
फिर से बोलिए.
Actually, sir, in our subdivision office in our MBs, whatever monthly rent we are sending to division office for sites, because they are all rented sites, maximum of them. So for that entry, we are also doing in measurement book, and for COP also we do entry in measurement.
See, if the work is, if the payment is chargeable to works, then you are required to make an entry in the measurement books, right? But if you're just a minute. Hello. I'm in the middle of a lecture, so please call me after some time. Yeah. If if what I was saying, yes, if a particular charge means if a particular payment, if it is attributable to works, if it can be if it is chargeable to works, then only entry in MB will be made. If it is COP, if it is rent, if it is electricity bill, if it is procurement of curtains, whatever, if it is chargeable to works, it will have to be entered into your measurement books. If it is chargeable to office expenses, it will not go into the measurement books. It will be entered into your inventory of office items.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay. Okay, Alok Pratap Singh UGBO is saying thank you, sir. So thank you to all of you, and thank you to NWA, thank you to head NWA, Shri Datta S. Chaskar, Saurabh, and all the participants for giving me this opportunity to interact with you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. It was a very comprehensive session on the topics of preparation of estimates, standard documents, and
Correct.
these are such a topics, sir, involve so many rules and regulations that
Correct.
whatever time you have is always less to get grasp of all the rules under these topics.
Yeah, normally it happens now that this tendering should also always be kept at the second half and as the last part of the lecture, so that it can be extended.
Yes,
There are
sir.
many things which normally in CWC we are not exposed to this topic very much. And when we land in the field and we are exposed to it, then we feel all at sea as initial reaction. कि ये भगवान अब मैं इसको कैसे करूं, है ना? तो if at this stage at induction training level itself, if you are exposed to these things, probably at least even if 25% of it is retained, say after 5 years or 6 years, then it will serve the purpose. You will have at least a springboard from where to jump into that ocean called field. Safely.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
Yeah.
Sure, sir. So there was a lot to learn for all the participants from the session. And definitely, I'm sure they must have gained very crucial insights on the related topics and also gained from the experience which you possess, sir. So thank you so much, sir, for taking the sessions, 2 sessions yesterday and 2 sessions today. It was a pleasure to have you with us and to listen to you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Saurabh. Now I am quitting, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sure, sir.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye to all of you.
Sir. Okay, sir. Thank you. And to all the participants, I request. Are you there?
Yes, sir.
So I can see many of the participants logged out before time. तो आप थोड़ा प्लीज बताइए अगर आपके जान पहचान के लोग हैं तो प्लीज कि हम लोग आपकी अटेंडेंस मॉनिटर कर रहे हैं तो ऐसे कोई भी सेशन खत्म होने से पहले छोड़ के ना जाए. You all are expected to remain there for the entire duration of the session. ठीक है, तो प्लीज अपने बाकी साथियों को भी बता के रखिए. I have already posted in the group. तो थोड़ा सा ध्यान रखिएगा कि अटेंडेंस आपकी जरूरी है थ्रू आउट द सेशन. ठीक है. So thank you, and we will meet again tomorrow for the final day of our online training week. उसके बाद जो है आप लोग फिजिकल मोड में NWA पुणे तो आएंगे ही, तो यहाँ पर फिजिकली हमारे 2 हफ्ते का सेशन चलेगा. So it's going to be exciting 2 weeks for all of you, and I wish you all the best for the same. And for today, that's it, and have a good day. We'll see you tomorrow again.
Thank you, sir.